75 years old, and I still wake up with a little guy saluting me.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
Come on, let's wake up.
Gotta wake up.
Are you sure you want to wake up to this?
Come on now, wake up.
I can't wait to wake up.
Wake up, idiot.
And a good Thursday morning. Thank you for spending it with us right here in the DriveHubler.com studio. This is the Wake Up Call. Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney, and Mark Dykton. I will speak, at least for myself, two of my favorite guests. Of course, Scott Agness is a weekly guest. I kind of take him for granted. I should not do that. But Joe Reitz coming up later in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll recap the Colts season with him and where things stand and what is certainly a pivotal offseason. And then Tom Crean joining us at 9 o'clock. I'm trying to think. I believe last year was maybe the first time we had Tom Crean on. I think we tried to do a kind of IU-Purdue game, him and Bruce Weber, if my memory
That's exactly what we did, yeah.
serves
before
me
the
correct.
First game, yeah.
And he was great, and I've really enjoyed him as an analyst on ESPN, and I guess fittingly in a way, he comes on at a pretty good time with us, considering where things stand college basketball-wise in the state. And I also want to talk to him about Thomas Bryant. You know, Thomas Bryant has spoken very highly of Tom Crean, and he's been a big key to the Pacers here over the last month, so the former head coach of the Hoosiers coming up at 9.
Yeah, well, good morning to you guys. It was nice not to have to sit in my car for 30 minutes and warm it up. So, you know, it's 25 degrees. That was a little bit nice.
I almost went shorts today.
I was in Palm Springs.
Although I almost felt like 30 times yesterday. You guys would have liked it. I think my neighbors saw me. I was doing the whole with my arms are to my side, and I saved it. I did save it, so we're good there. I can't remember who Indiana lost to, but there's the picture of Thomas Bryant being hugged on the sideline by Tom Crean. Remember that in his final game at Indiana? So you're right. I had not even thought of that. Obviously, we'll talk with Tom coming up at 9 o'clock about college basketball. And, you know, I'm thinking of a couple questions to ask Tom, and I come to the realization that with Indiana, it's like, how do you ask Tom Crean about a team that he used to coach that is so pathetic right now? And you know, he answers people on Twitter quite a bit, but the people on Twitter that are clamoring for Tom Crean, like it's an awkward interview, right? Because he's not going to crush Mike Woodson, and even though Mike Woodson's doing a bad job. So we get to ask Tom Crean about a program he used to coach and used to coach and do a lot better job than the guy who's there now making more than $5 million a year. So,
yeah, this is straw poll, but it does seem like the IU faithful has, boy, maybe that X was a little better than I thought.
Hey, there is a lot of that. Someone had the video. God, and I'm blanking who they beat. Maybe it was Wisconsin at home. It was one of the first big wins when Tom was turning things around.
I think it was Illinois.
Was it when he went into the?
He went into the South lobby.
When he went into the lobby, yeah, exactly.
That was certainly.
But by the way, I don't know if you know this. Local breaking news: Chuck Lofton is retiring in June.
Man,
I just saw they posted that 40 years WTHR. We had him on.
Boy, Calabro, Kevin Gregory, the legend.
I mean, all the legends are gone.
Chuck Lofton,
40
I guess it comes
years.
in threes here. Boy, what a run. Certainly for those icons there. Boy, I grew up with like all of those.
I know.
My dad actually taught Kevin Gregory back at Ben Davis back in the day. So good Thursday morning to everybody out there. Thank you for spending it with us. As Andy said, not as chilly as it was yesterday morning. By no means balmy, but looks like we'll have a little bit of a nice end of the weekend or end of the week here before next week. It is going to be very, very cold. So along with Joe Reitz, Tom Crean, we'll sprinkle in some Colts talk. Again, the Pacers up in Detroit tonight. Actually kind of a newsy one. Benedict Mathurin suspended late last night for that game. That will be tonight, of course. That news announced, I should say, late last night. No surprise there. In the bumping of the official, I was kind of waiting for that news to be announced. I kind of got to like 9 o'clock last night. I'm thinking, boy, we still have nothing on Mathurin.
Yeah, what time did it even come out?
I swear it was like right as Purdue and Washington was starting.
Okay, so about 9:30 or so.
So that
gotcha.
Is the news item for tonight. And on the positive front, Tyrese Halliburton has bumped from doubtful to questionable, so a chance for him to only miss one game. And we could see the return of Aaron Nesmith for the first time since November 1st. He is listed at questionable. You know, it's not going to happen tonight, Andy, because Mathurin is out. But, boy, as early as, I guess, Saturday, are we back to, like, the how does Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd fit into the Pacers rotation?
Well, you're probably
Which is
right.
a great problem to have. We haven't discussed it in months, but, you know, that is something that with Nesmith's injury, we just, Walker's been needed and Shepherd's been needed a whole lot. Well, all of a sudden, Matherin will be back on Saturday, and Halliburton's questionable, and seemingly Neesmith's return could happen as early as tonight. So, again, good problem to have as the Pacers start the second half of their season tonight.
Yeah, I think in the next, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, obviously we have the All-Star break coming up. First of all, tonight's one of those interesting games because, if a combination of these guys don't play, and I could foresee a situation to where they still don't have Neesmith and they still don't have Tyrese, and obviously Benedict Mathurin gets the one-game suspension. But I don't understand why it takes to 9:45 at night to come up with Joe Dumars to make that move. I mean, he could have done that at what time? 4 o'clock in the afternoon, noon. I mean, he bumped an official.
He could have done it at 9 o'clock the previous night.
Yeah, it's just simple. So I don't understand that. I could foresee a world they don't play, and right now Detroit's favored by 2.5 and 3. And
this isn't your normal Detroit, by the way.
No, and I just bring that up because, the Pacers are playing really good basketball, and all these games mean something. When you put yourself below 500 and you're trying to make it up, everything means something. Besides the Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd back of the rotation, it's also interesting two other ways. I mean, we've had the Mathurin, Neesmith starting lineup discussion. So that is one, I would imagine it's going to take Neesmith a little bit of time. They'll play him 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 20 minutes to kind of get him back in shape and game shape and everything else. But, the starting conversation, does it rear its ugly head? We had the conversation, late last week that, do we ever ask Rick Carlisle about the starting lineup, removing Mathurin or keeping Mathurin or putting Aaron in there? So that would be one. And then something we haven't talked too much about, I know there's a piece in the Star, Cam Johnson, the player from the 6'8 swingman, the wing there with the Nets. A lot of teams want him. The Pacers have been a team that by a few different NBA insiders, KB, have been linked to him. If Neesmith is back and he plays well and he's healthy here over the next few weeks, he would be a guy contractually that could be moved. And I think that's a conversation as well. If he remains injured, obviously, the probability of that goes down. So the next few weeks are interesting. And, hey, if they can get those two guys back with him and Tyrese and you miss Mathurin, I think they go in and have a great chance to win tonight. In a game I think they need to win.
Trade deadline 3 weeks from today. Weirdly, again, Detroit is not Detroit. I mean, they're 21-19. They're right there in the standings with you. It is a very jumbled 4 through 9. It's like 2 games separates, hey, home court in round 1 versus you have to win a game to keep your season alive right now. So that'll be something obviously to watch here over the second half. Again, Jaden Ivey unfortunately had that big injury a few weeks back, but Cade Cunningham,
dude, he's been awesome.
It was kind of funny when Rick Carlisle joined us, I think the day before the season opener. In very Rick Carlisle fashion, he talked up the Pistons like they were the 76 Hoosiers, and I kind of laughed at it a little bit, but I think he had a lot of reason behind that. And like Malik Beasley has been very good for them. Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, they kind of added a few. Like the Tobias Harris thing was kind of weird. It was like, wait a minute, are they tanking or like what are they doing here, trying to play their youth? But they have clearly found some nice success this season. So that will be 7 o'clock tonight for those that hung in there with the Boilers late last night. You were rewarded. That was a go to bed at halftime because you're so disgusted by the first half. They were down 8. They scored 22 in the first half. It looked like a road Big Ten just.
It was ugly, man.
Oh,
it was
man,
an ugly game.
Was just, I was kind of like, boy, are you like? I thought at one point Maddie was going to be like, are you really going to hang in there for all 40? And sure enough, the second half, Purdue gets back to being Purdue. 47-28. They outscore Washington in the second half. That is now 5 straight Big Ten wins, all by double digits. Can I put some homework on Scotty's desk?
Oh, I would love that. And they're all quad 2 wins, by the way. I think 4 out of the 5 are. Yeah, go ahead. Scotty's listening. Tell him.
Venture to guess when the last time a Big Ten team has won 5 straight, all by double digits.
So you know the answer to this?
No, I don't.
You don't know the answer to that?
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
No. I have a life. I'm not going to look it up that much.
Well, I thought it might have been on the broadcast or something last night, and you jotted it down.
It's got to be a while, right?
I mean,
if any team were to do it, it would be Purdue.
Well, I would think so, but
and
it's
like
3
of the 5 are away from home. I mean,
it's going to be one of those that happened like 4 years ago.
I get they're not playing, right now, Murderer's Row with this schedule, but still, it's 5 in a row, 3 away from home, and I do think the Caleb First story is just a good feel-good college basketball story. I'll be honest, when I saw Caleb First run out there off the bench for whatever their opener this season, I thought to myself, oh wow. I forgot he's still at Purdue.
Oh, I did too. I don't think we talked about him.
98% of kids transfer in the Caleb First situation. But academically, I think he's going to be a doctor or something.
Of course he is.
Very, very certainly educated. Education clearly means a lot to him, but he's been big. They've inserted him in the starting lineup. Last night, career high 15 points for him. So Purdue start off their Western Big Ten slate, as weird as that sounds, with a comeback win over Washington.
You know what? You know Caleb First is going to be. You guys will enjoy this. So whoever is sitting in the seats, at the Fan, morning, afternoon, or night, okay? Whoever's doing a live radio show the day before the Purdue-Indiana game in 10 to 15 years, they're going to have former players on, and Caleb First is going to be one of them. And he's going to be introduced as Dr. Caleb First.
Yeah, he's going to be doing surgery on his former teammates.
That's exactly. He's going to be doing an ACL surgery on whoever is there at Purdue. In 15 years, I expect Matt Painter to be there. But you're right. Ugly first half, much better second half. I think they only made 3 threes all night. So it was a very, Mike Woodson watched Purdue and thought, this is some good offense. I like the way this Purdue team's shooting threes tonight. But they overcame it. And, there was a Pacer game, KB. I'm trying to think. Was it the Golden State game? Maybe one of the Miami games. Remember, we came in here and said that was just what phrase do we use? A working man's game,
Professional.
a professional game. That was a little bit of last night for Purdue. But when you're the better team and you have the better coach and you have guys like Braden Smith and Wren, obviously Kaufman Wren, you can go in and you can win an ugly game like that. What I find interesting, this winning streak, I'm not belittling it at all. It's been all quad 2, a quad 3, and a quad 4, okay? Now they have over, much like Indiana, you're in the middle of Big Ten conference play, the next month or so, month and a half, they're going to have at least 8 opportunities for quad 1 wins. And then at Indiana, that very well could become a quad 1 win. Ohio State is right on the cusp. They'll play them next Tuesday. That very well at times could be a quad 1 win. So I use that because that's what the NCAA tournament committee is going to use. So, Purdue, they took care of business against the lesser thans. I'm interested. They're 3-1, KB, or 3-4, I should say, in quad 1 opportunities. How they can improve that. Because right now they're about a 4 or 5 seed. Can they bump up to a 2 or 3? We're going to find out probably in the next month.
Well, Saturday is an opportunity.
It is.
At Oregon, so they will round out this Western trip. Again, Oregon is a top 15 team. They would be on a 2 or 3 line right now if you look at it from a bracket standpoint. So I don't know if we're there yet. I'm like, okay, how do you view the Western Big Ten trips? I assume you just kind of view it as if you get a split, you're very happy. And it's weird because Washington and Oregon are 2 very different teams. UCLA and USC are a bit different as well. It's important, I think, to just get at least one, but certainly from a resume standpoint at Oregon on Saturday, that is Saturday afternoon, would be helpful. To say Butler needed that win last night would be an understatement. They hold on for dear life and defeat Seton Hall over there at Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Shaheen Holloway, that's not working out very well this season.
I kind of forgot he was the coach, too.
I forgot he was the coach over there, too. He was pretty demonstrative at times last night. So you're right, Butler needed that win as well. Let's take our first break. Coming up on the other side, Purdue gets the win. You mentioned Butler. Tons of college hoops. Pacers tonight. Your morning check down. We'll do it next. Appreciate you waking up with us. It's a Thursday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
All right, 20 minutes from now, the great Joe Reitz will join us. Talk a little Colts action with him. Coming up at 9 o'clock, it is Tom Crean. Really enjoyed a couple conversations with Coach Crean this time last year. We figured college basketball season ramping up here in mid-January. Time to get the former Indiana coach back on. So he will join us coming up at 9. And Andy, I assume you'll go to the former rival, if you will, of Tom Crean to lead off this morning checkdown.
Yeah, let's start with Purdue last night. Their first time in the Big Ten going on the road. We mentioned that West Coast trip in Washington, at Washington, I should say. Purdue now 6 wins in a row. They get the win last night, 69-58. Down 8 at halftime. They come back, like you mentioned, 47-28 in the second half. Braden Smith, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals. Another solid game from him. Trey Kaufman-Renn with 19 and 6. And then we talked about in the first segment, 15 points, 6 rebounds in 26 minutes for Caleb Furst. So he was really good. He's had a nice stretch here the last couple weeks. Great. Now, we talked about this yesterday. If you remember, great Osibor. He plays for Washington now. He transferred in, okay? He had 28 points last night for Washington. Do you know combined the other 4 starters how many points they scored last night? I'm not asking you to know. I added it up during the break.
They only scored 58 as a whole.
15.
15?
Yeah, 15. The other starters scored 15 total. So Purdue back in action, back on the road. They're staying on the road at Oregon Saturday, 3 o'clock. That's an NBC game for the Boilers.
And 5 straight double-digit wins in the Big Ten for Matt Painter's
pretty good
bunch. Butler desperately times a million needed one, and they got one last night against an awful Seton Hall team. Do you know the last time they had won a game before last night?
Well, it's back in what,
before
late
Christmas.
Yeah, it's way before Christmas. Mid-December, right?
December 3rd.
Oh, wow, so it's December 3rd. That's not good. Wow, so they
went
went a
9
month and a half.
straight losses. They really were in control all second half. Then it started to really leak some oil there. Patrick McCaffrey, a little floater off the glass to kind of help ice it. They hit their free throws late, 82-77. All right, tonight up in Detroit, it's the Pacers beginning their second half of the season. Now, they are an underdog, 2.5-point underdog. Couple items to note for tonight. No Benedict Mathurin, suspended. That was announced late last night for bumping the official the other night. Just one game on that. Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith both listed as questionable. So for Halliburton, of course, he missed his first game of the season the other night against Cleveland. That left groin strain, that's what it's being called now, left groin strain, not hamstring. It looks like that has a chance just to be a one-game absence. So we'll monitor that all day long. And Aaron Nesmith, we have yet to see him since November 1st. 35 missed games for Nesmith. He, again, listed as questionable, as Andy pointed out, of course, very accurately in the opening segment. You would assume if and when Nesmith returns to the lineup, it would be heavy minutes restriction early on. Probably unlike to play, back-to-backs, things like that. So, again, just a couple of newsy items with the Pacers and Pistons tonight. And Detroit, weirdly, is like in the middle of the playoff picture with the Pacers.
I like in the first segment you said when they were playing Tobias Harris a lot, were they trying to tank?
Well, remember when they traded for him and it was like, wait, is that a misprint?
Yeah,
Did
everyone hates
Shams
Tobias
get the
Harris.
teams wrong there?
No one likes that
But
guy.
they're 21 and 19 on the year.
Cade Cunningham's been awesome.
He has been awesome. Again, unfortunately, the Jaden Ivey injury was very difficult to watch, and he was having a great season. So Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Jalen Duren, one of the Thompson brothers. So far, these teams have split this season. The Pistons have won 10 of 12.
It's pretty good. The only other thing I had, did you see the College Football Hall of Fame announced their inductees this year? Among them, I mean, listen to these guys. Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, Michael Vick, Michael Strahan, among others, going to be inducted this year. How about that? I mean, that's pretty good.
Where did Michael Strahan go to college?
Texas Southern, I believe.
Really?
And
Isn't that where Mike Davis used to coach?
I think it is. Where's Mike Davis right now? Quick quiz. Come on, where's Mike Davis right now? I know where he's at.
No way he's still at Detroit, is he?
No. He's the Memphis basketball assistant with Penny Hardaway. You knew that.
That's right.
You knew that.
I did.
You got anything else?
Just early look at the divisional round of the playoffs. Again, just to remind everybody, coming up on Saturday, you'll get your number 1 seed. So we've yet to see Kansas City and Detroit. We'll see them Saturday. It's Houston and Kansas City at 4:30. It's Detroit and Washington to follow that. And then Sunday, it will be Bills, Ravens. That is the 6:30 game, probably the marquee game of divisional round weekend. and Eagles-Rams. That is the 3 o'clock game on Sunday. Is Kansas City for real?
What do you mean is Kansas City for real?
Is this a different year?
No.
This will be same old, same old?
No. Whoever they face, between the Ravens and Bills is going to be flying high. Come on, Mark, you know this. We'll be flying high. Everyone's talking about it's the game of the year.
So
it's
you
going to be
don't
the
believe
best game.
in Kansas City's 11 one-possession wins this season will catch up to them?
No, I believe they'll have a 12.
Travis Kelce has looked old.
I believe they'll have a 12. No, come on, don't do this. Taylor Swift will be in
The
attendance.
Chiefs will not win the Super Bowl.
Okay, that's fine. You live in that world. Until it happens, I'm not going to be that guy. It's supposed to be really cold in Buffalo this weekend. That's like the storyline. It's like it's going to be cold in Buffalo. I'm like, yeah, it's mid-January in Buffalo. You're lucky it's not dumping 3 feet of snow on top of your head. So
I would think Buffalo, that serves Baltimore better, right? I mean, they just want to run it and run it and run it. Buffalo kind of wants to throw it a little, right?
I think I'm with you on that. The only flip side is Lamar Jackson has been poor in the playoffs throwing the football at times, and you still need him to throw the football a little bit on Sunday. That would be my only kickback, but I think, yes, ground and pound, run Lamar, run Derrick Henry, run Justice Hill until it's over, until you win the game. So we'll give our predictions coming up on Friday on that. All right, on the other side, a thought on IU basketball, plus the great Joe Reitz joins us, his thoughts on the end of the season as the Colts, yet again, do not make the playoffs. Appreciate you waking up with us. Wake Up Call, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, coming up in a few, Joe Reitz going to join us. We continue to look back on the Colts season and probably look ahead to a big defensive coordinator decision here upcoming and what else kind of caught Joe's ears from Chris Bauer's season-ending presser. 9 o'clock, Tom Crean to join us here. Again, for our Purdue fans that did not stay up last night, a hell of a second half by the Boilers. They come back and beat Washington. Indiana next in action, actually tomorrow. They've got Ohio State. That is the Friday kind of Fox 8 o'clock game that I guess we've grown accustomed to a little bit here in the new Big Ten life.
I'm trying to think, has anyone, I don't remember too many NBC games. That's rather new, is it not? As well? How many times did Purdue and Indiana play last season on NBC? Help me. I can't remember.
Yeah, I feel like they were Peacock on one of them, which I guess is NBC streaming service. And then what, maybe Fox on the other?
Yeah, but
FS1,
it's not traditional NBC.
No.
I mean, so you're going to have the old NBA on NBC music, perhaps. You're going to think of Rick Smits and Reggie Miller.
Wait, I use NBC tomorrow?
Yeah. Or
what?
No, Purdue on Saturday.
On
Purdue
Saturday
and
against
Oregon.
Oregon?
Yeah, Purdue and Oregon, NBC. Coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, that's 3 o'clock our time, noon out there for the Boilers.
I haven't seen Oregon much this season. I know right now, Lenardi had his latest bracketology out. I think he had him as a 2 seed, if I'm not mistaken. So we got to check out. Dana Altman didn't make the tournament for 2 or 3 years in a row there, and it was like, maybe it's time. You have all the Nike money and everything else. Maybe it's time to move on from him. They were in a crappy conference. Now, of course, they go to the Big Ten. He made the tournament last year, went to the round of 32, and obviously this year has a team that would be a top 3 seed. So we may do some bracketology. Where's Purdue? Obviously Indiana. They actually, before the 30-point loss to Illinois, they were in the first 4 out. And then Joe Lenardi just took them way off the board after they lost by 30 to Illinois, which isn't surprising for the most part.
I don't want to do the IU song and dance we did yesterday. I thought it was, necessary yesterday. I thought our points are very clear. I will reiterate, I think Mike Woodson screams of arrogance and laziness at his job. But I will add one more item to it. I do think Scott Dolson has earned the right to make this hire with no one looking over his shoulder. I think Scott Dolson, save the university is such a hyperbolic statement, but that hire of Kurt Cignetti has earned the right.
No kidding.
To allow him
listen, you're right.
to make this hire. And, I thought Dolson laid out some very specific kind of prereqs that he wanted post Tom Allen, and Cignetti, by all accounts, checked those boxes. So I think in a similar fashion, remember, Archie Miller was the Fred Glass hire. Yes, I'm not going to act like Scott Dolson didn't want Mike Woodson, but I think there were some very important people in that university that just need to let Scott Dolson do his job and were a little bit too influential in wanting we got, Archie, he wasn't a Bob Knight guy. We got to go back to that guard. No. That doesn't need to happen. Let Scott Dolson make this move and see what happens.
Yeah, Jake and Jimmy talked about it yesterday, and I thought Jimmy was right. You tried it. You tried going down this road. Again, it's much like what Louisville did with Kenny Payne. We talked about it yesterday. You went down the former player who had been a coach, a long-time coach for a while, and it didn't work out. If I could just add one thing, and Joe Wright's going to join us here in about 6 or 7 minutes. If I could just add one thing, KB, to the IU discussion, I would agree with you. Yesterday, we had to do the unfortunate. They stink. They have stunk. They're arrogant. Mike Woodson, fire him, move on, and everything else. I did have a smile on my face when my man Brian Evans was on with Jake and Jimmy because we were talking about it, like, who's he going to go on with? Is he going to go on with Jake and Jimmy or JMB in the afternoon? And he did. We need to remember, and we talked about it, and we probably did not talk about it enough, that when everyone's mentioning how, and we see it now, when everyone's mentioning how much talent they have and how much NIL money they have and how everyone was excited. You go out and you get Ballo, you get a couple guards, and Trey Galloway comes back and you're thinking, okay, Malik Renew comes back, Mackenzie Mbaka, who's been terrible the last few games. You would imagine, he's going to take a step forward. And you start dreaming, if you're an Indiana fan, they still did not, unfortunately, and we should have called this out, they didn't get better at one of their greatest weaknesses. In fact, I would even add perhaps their greatest weakness, and that is shooting the basketball and shooting the three. They don't shoot the three ball well. You can go to any Ken Pom number and find that. And then, I mean, KB, you just look at it. Miles Rice coming in, he's a fine player, but Miles Rice coming into Indiana was 27% from three, and he's shooting 30% this year. Kanan Carlisle, who I don't think is very good, and obviously he's not playing nearly as much, and I know he's had injuries. He came in shooting about 33%, and he's shooting as bad as he ever has at 27%. Luke Goody, who has been good. I mean, listen, Luke Goody's been fine. He's been in the starting lineup. He's been one of the guys that you actually do trust. He's still a few percentage points lower than when he was playing a lot of games at Illinois. They just cannot make threes. 3-point percentage, they're number 274 in the country. They're 330 on three-point rate. They're 314 in the country in three-pointers made. So while they got Ballo, and we talked about Mackenzie and Baco, and they got guards, and you were hoping they were going to play at a better pace, which is questionable if they're doing, the main bugaboo that has hurt them is they cannot make a perimeter shot. And Mike Woodson went out and he got guards. While talented, he got guys that inherently shot 27% from three. And to think you're going to go to Indiana and Mike Woodson, and that number is going to go from 27 to 38, 39%, 40% is just a fallacy. And it's one thing that we should have talked a little bit more about before the season, and we didn't, and we see it rearing its ugly head yet again this year.
Are people serious with Lou Holtz as motivating Ohio State?
No. I mean, we have the sound if you want to play it at some point. I listened to Lou Holtz's 5-minute video twice.
Can you imagine playing for a national title?
What a sicko.
He didn't say anything hot take. He just broke down like, the wide receivers and here are the tight ends.
I thought he was great bringing up his Kent State education. Imagine playing for a national title and having to rely on an 87-year-old man to motivate you.
Well, I mean, I was hoping Lou Holtz would come out scorched earth and call Ryan Day a bum, and he didn't do it.
I'm seeing these college football writers being like, oh, Lou Holtz is going to regret this. Marcus Freeman can't be happy. Like, is Marcus Freeman begging for John Cooper to all of a sudden, KB, grab the mic here? You're playing for the national championship. You need motivation?
It's the exact thing I thought. But again, I'm listening to Lou Holtz, and I'm waiting for him to give a hot take, and he's not giving me a hot take. He's giving me that the coaching staff at Ohio State is doing a great job, but Notre Dame has more heart.
What about his tweet? I thought his tweet was pretty.
Well, he did tweet out that he's like, it's on. Like, I'm going to be in attendance.
Oh, no, he said if Notre Dame doesn't win, it's because we want to preserve Ryan Day's job.
Now, that's hot takey. But he's got to give us that in audio or video so we can dub it over, so we can play it on the radio.
Ryan Day's printing that out, putting it on the team plane as they board it.
Apparently, he's got, like a hip injury? Lou Holtz, I'm not saying that because he's an old man. I think he's got a left leg injury of some kind. He injured his leg.
Are you saying he's not going to be there?
I think he's going to be there. Give him a golf cart. What are we doing? Come on. Those stadiums are huge.
Wheel him out to the coin toss for all I care. I literally had to laugh at some of this.
Who's putting that out there? Everybody? All the college football guys?
I saw Dan Wolken tweet that last night. I'm like, come on. It's the national championship.
You're right. Will Howard's game is going to rely
Jeremiah
on Lou
Smith
Holtz.
watching the Lou Holtz video on repeat here.
I would love to know what the Ohio State guys know about Lou Holtz. Because we're very, some of these guys are like 19 years old. Lou Holtz last coached when?
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
20 years ago.
Let's head to the Payless Liquors hotline right now. It takes tough individuals to join us in the 7 a.m. hour, and this man's been up for about 4 hours every time he does join us here. At 7:41 on this Thursday morning, the great Joe Reitz with us here. Joe, good morning to you. How are you?
Good afternoon. Love the Lou Holtz talk. One of my favorite quotes from him. If not now, when? If not me, who? So there we go. Fired up here this morning. The three of us are going to have a great conversation.
Joe, you do you have rooting interest for Monday night, or are you one of these people that want a meteor to hit Atlanta?
Here's what I like about it. I'm pulling for Notre Dame, certainly.
Wow.
In-state school. I like the Irish. I spent a week there during my NFL time kind of for a continuing education thing and really kind of fell in love with the school and the campus. And as you know, Kevin, I was raised in a really staunch Boiler household, raised to root against the Irish. I remember calling my dad on the way home. I'm like, hey, you were doing me wrong. I love this place. And he's like, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid for the Irish, aren't you? I was like, for darn sure I am. So I have become a Notre Dame fan. My kids are. But I tell you what, I love the culture that they have there with Marcus Freeman. They are a team that is playing for something beyond themselves. And I always said in the NFL, that was really hard to do, right? Guys are playing for themselves mostly and their paychecks and their families, and to get teams that have that collegiate atmosphere is hard. And I think in college sports now, in the NIL era, you're seeing that more professional sports. All right, well, I'm going to worry about me, and I'm going to get paid, and I'm going somewhere next year. Nobody's leaving from Notre Dame. Nobody's coming back. They love each other. You can tell they love the coach. And so I'm pulling for the Irish, and I am glad that it's a Midwest championship. The SEC can talk all they want about how great they are in football, but for Monday night, the Midwest and Big Ten football and the Irish, that's going to carry the day.
How about that in SEC territory where that SEC championship game is? Joe Reitz, a slight shot at his father, Dave. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Joe, you kind of led me down the path I wanted to go. You used the word culture. That was a word that came up with the Colts quite often this season. I'm curious from your playing days, and certainly you are one that I would say heavily believes in leadership and how vital that is. How would you define a culture within an NFL locker room, and I guess what is necessary to have a healthy culture?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's something where you got to have healthy tension. I think the NFL, it's the most competitive professional sport there because guys don't have guaranteed contracts, and it's, small careers. They say the NFL stands for not for long. And so I think that, you kind of always got to be on edge. And that comes from, really it can come from leadership in the building. It comes from your coaching staff. But the best teams I was on, it came from inside the locker room. And I was so fortunate. I played 2 years with the Ravens and, Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. And those guys were patrolling what was going on the field, off the field, what guys were doing 24 hours a day. The same here with the Colts with Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday and Reggie Wayne and Robert Mathis and, Dwight Freeney and, Jeff Saturday, on and on and on. And I just think that the Colts have lost some of that, within the locker room in terms of player-led leadership. And so, culture is a word that every team now, an organization throws around. And, I've always said if you got to talk about culture a lot, you probably don't have it. It's really just how you show up and what you do on a daily basis. And I think that there's a level of accountability that, needs to be there that wasn't there. And I think Chris Ballard was really open in this press conference about talking about that and how, that they need to get better and improve in those different areas. And I thought that was really refreshing to hear. So I am excited to see kind of moving forward, what changes are going to be made internally. And it sounds like externally too, in terms of, openness to bringing in some more free agents. And he talked about competition a lot. And that's it, right? There's nothing that drives people to perform at their very best on a daily basis than really, really healthy competition. And I do think the Colts need more of that next year, and I'm looking forward to that.
Joe, you mentioned competition. You can add players, obviously, to that, and you can immediately, create that competition. You saw that with Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell maybe this past offseason. But that culture, how long does it, take to grow that culture? Is that something that they could flip and have next season, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a TBD, I think, and it'll remain to be seen. But it can happen really quick. I think you get the right guys in the locker room, and you get leaders and guys that are encouraged to step up. And I think that's what's unique about the Colts a little bit, in just having a young quarterback, right? And I think so often quarterback is the most important position, certainly in the NFL and in professional sports. And I think so much of next season is really going to hinge on the development of Anthony Richardson. And really, to me, it's, what's his 365-day plan to get better, right? In terms of, leading this team, leading this franchise, leading this whole city and state. I don't think that's too much to share because it's real. And obviously year 3 for him is going to be so important in terms of the development of not only him individually, but just this team and where it's going into the future.
We've welcomed him to the bandwagon that is Notre Dame football coming up on Monday night. He is the great Joe Reitz, of course, Colts pregame. And you hear him on Monday nights, or you heard him on Monday nights throughout the season. A great listen with him, Rick Venturi, and Matt Taylor. Joe is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Joe, I've heard you tell the story of Andrew Luck in a training camp practice, 90-degree heat, late, in a drill, and kind of your early signs of seeing him as a leader and kind of looking at you guys in the huddle and saying, hey, give me a little bit more here in this moment. I bring that up to say this. Do you think an NFL team can be successful if their quarterback is a backseat leader?
I think it's different. You know, Joe Flacco. You know, we went to the playoffs. We were 11-5 the first year when he was a rookie, and he wasn't necessarily the loudest guy. You know, Cool Joe. You know, that was kind of his mantra and moniker. So I think that it can happen. But for me, you know, a quarterback, an NFL quarterback, really has to be three things, right? They have to be somebody that's setting the standard in terms of the building, in terms of, you know, their effort, their work ethic, you know, what they're doing. They have to be somebody that inspires others, you know, in terms of somebody that you're able to lift those guys where they can't go on their own, right? That's what, you know, coaches do. They push guys beyond where they can go and where they think they can go. And I think the quarterback needs to do that too. And then, you know, special moments on the field, I would call it, where do you have that belief in your quarterback that if you're down 10 in the fourth quarter with 12 minutes to go, that you know that he's going to make special plays and he's going to make that stuff happen. And I think Richardson certainly has shown that latter part, and I think he did it at points throughout this year. I mean, there's things he can do on the football field that no other quarterback in the NFL can do, and that's such a unique trait. And I think for him to build on that, but I think him to really just take ownership, right? And I understand he was a young guy, a super young guy, and last year he was a very young guy. But, you know, I think year 3 is going to be so pivotal for him in terms of taking the reins and saying, you know, this is my team and, you know, this is our franchise and we're going to do this together. But, you know, so I'm looking forward to him, you know, maybe spreading his wings a little bit more and doing it. And I think obviously the wild card and, you know, Chris mentioned it in his press conference is his health, right? You know, can he play 17 games and whatever he has to do, you know, from now until next September in terms of, you know, taking care of your body, doing all the extra things, you know, extra treatment, prehab, stuff like that, so he can go out and play 17 games because, you know, certainly, you know, he's got to be on the field for himself and this team to be successful.
Joe, you know, we've been talking so much about Anthony Richardson, and I thought it was a great answer there, and you've kind of answered part of it. But, you know, from when he was drafted a couple years ago, starting, obviously getting the injury as a rookie and all the, you know, the drama and some injuries and some good play, along with some bad play, obviously, tapping out of the game. A lot happened this season with Anthony Richardson. How is your opinion of him as a starting big-time caliber quarterback in the NFL changed from a couple years ago to today?
Yeah, I think it's an unknown, but I think he certainly had growth in year 2. And I do think that it was a positive thing, him, you know, being benched mid-year and coming back. And I think you saw a different, you know, Anthony Richardson coming back. And I think that, you know, there's no motivator like the bench. You know, there's no motivator like, again, being on edge, you know, kind of every day in the locker room. That drives guys to be at their peak performance. And I just think, you know, the more that we have of that, you know, especially when you have a young team, you know, I think that that's important. And, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing what they're doing. You know, I think the bottom line is, you know, and it's tough, right, for all fans that are listening, to myself as a fan and a former player. I mean, when you haven't been in the playoffs for 4 years and you haven't won the division in 10 years, right, there's got to be a heightened sense of urgency, like a real heightened sense of urgency. And I think, you know, I thought, you know, the best part of Chris's press conference was talking about, you know, being close. You know, and he said, hey, you know, being close is losing on the last play of the Super Bowl, you know, and I don't, you know, verbatim, but basically said, hey, we might not be as close as some people think. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I hope that there's a motivation. I hope that there's a drive, you know, with this Colts team, you know, for this entire offseason that, hey, we want this franchise to return to the standard. And the standard, you know, has always been, right, winning the division every year, you know, winning 12 playoff games. I mean, I think we were spoiled with so much of the greatness that we've had, you know, for a decade and a half, you know, from 2000 to 2015. And I just want, you know, the Colts to get back to that. And there's 100, you know, maybe 1,000 different things that all go into that at the end of the day. But the bottom line is, you know, everybody's got to elevate themselves individually, you know, and if you do that with 53 guys and you're real about it and you have tough conversations and honest conversations and you get better and you push guys and you challenge guys, you can have turnarounds quick. And no league is built for teams to turn around quicker than the NFL. That's why, you know, every year 30 to 40% of the playoff teams are new teams. And, you know, so that's my hope is that, you know, why not the Colts for next year and why can't they be the team that surprises everybody in the NFL?
That is the voice of Joe Reitz. Of course, you hear him pre-games during Colts season on these very airwaves and post-game, or I should say on Monday nights with Rick Venturi and Matt Taylor. Joe, you and I agree on a lot of things. We're big Reds fans. I think we both adore the Ryan Davises and Brian Shelbournes of the world. Joe, one thing we also can agree on, this track right here. And this is what we're going to hear Monday night.
Oh, here we go.
Jerry Goldsmith. Joe Reitz, when you're waking up at 3 a.m., are you going Jerry Goldsmith?
I mean, you can't beat it. I mean, the final game, it's about a 6-minute and 20-second soundtrack. I will play it for inspiration for myself and my kids at different points. But no, it'll be great Monday night. But Kevin, my question for you is, speaking of the Irish, there's a showdown Saturday night in Noblesville, Indiana. Cathedral visits Guerin Catholic.
You know, is that the Nest?
That's a big basketball game. Both 3A South, you know, top 5 teams in the state. So high school hoops, as it always is in Indiana, will be alive and well, and it'll be popping on Saturday night.
How about that? Bobby Allen's had Jason Delaney's number before. I have a feeling he might have it again coming up there on Saturday night. Fear the Nest as the Irish head north there to take on Joe Reitz's Guerin Catholic Eagles there. Joe, hope the family is doing excellent. Give Jill our best, and thank you for cheering for the Irish on Monday.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate having me on.
Great Joe Reitz, Payless Liquors Hotline tomorrow. We'll talk a little Marion County semifinal, BD and LN, Pike and NC with Greg Rakestraw.
Hang on. You played the final game.
Now, that was tryouts, to be fair. That was tryouts is my favorite.
Okay, got you.
That's track number 6. Joe went track number 10, final game, which, you know, obviously you hear the title, the final game. Your tryouts is when Rudy is
trying out, obviously. But that he said the final game, because I don't know the difference between them. I got to be honest.
6, 8, and 10 are the best tracks.
I do know that. But he said the final game.
This is final game, right, Mark?
He goes, it's a great 6-minute and 20-second song.
Correct.
So I went and looked it up, and it's 6 minutes and 20 seconds. That is sick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You guys are sick.
Joe Reitz and I are on the same
that.
wavelength. Now, track 8.
Oh, come on.
8 is a little shorter, Mark, if you can see that. It's probably about 1:50. I forget the exact title of 8.
I love you calling it by the track number.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard anyone do that in 25 years. Like, I'm being serious. You're the last person. I can't remember the last. It's been 2 decades.
I mean, when Mark moved the button to get the audio levels up on tryouts, can I tell you about the excitement that went through my body?
Listen, I know the excitement that went through your body. Oh, there it is. Is that number 8 then?
Take us out.
Take us out. Oh, yeah. See, this is the one. Yeah, this is the best one. This is the one.
So that is him. That's him
running out in the field. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Is it?
I just watched the movie. I think I would know.
Tryouts is him coming to practice, and everyone looks over in the corner. There he is. They're all clapping and everything, and you know the D coordinator kind of slaps him on the head and everything.
Boy, there's I hope thousands of people, Mark, listening to us who are so tired of freaking Notre Dame football.
I know.
They hope
I know.
Ohio State wins 49-7.
I really have probably turned a lot of casual fans again, you know, for Ryan Day's died here.
There's people like, if I hear the name Jerry Goldsmith again, I'm turning this radio
They cannot wait for Tuesday morning.
No, they hope Marcus Freeman goes to the Chicago Bears.
They're ready for Ohio State by 30.
Yeah.
Are you like, I feel like the Rudy soundtrack, if they win or lose, if you're doing the lap in the Speedo, that needs to be pumping.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
You need a boombox.
I haven't thought about the theatrics around it, but
you know how NFL teams come out with a boombox now? A lot of them do.
I'll message Debo Samuel and Trent Williams, see where they got theirs, and see if I can grab one.
I think we even up the stakes, and however many points Notre Dame would win by, that's how many laps around the circle you do.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
I like that.
Let's see what happens.
And you
in
know,
the game
if you
first.
mash up all the songs together, you could get a nice. I mean, all tryout songs.
Oh yeah.
As long as I don't know where Jerry Goldsmith is these days, we'd have to probably clear it with Mr. Goldsmith. But as long as we can, I say we do that.
Jerry Goldsmith has left this earth, and he left this earth a long time ago.
I was nervous. I was nervous when I said it out loud, but
I was in high school when he died in 2004.
I made that mistake once before. I kind of maybe it was Peter Gammons or somebody. I called him dead on air.
Oh, it happens. It happens. I've done that.
It happens, but it's Sky. You can't do it, Kevin.
No, it's not a good thing. But I'm just saying.
So
happens.
I thought that with Jerry Goldsmith, but I didn't want to do that to the Goldsmith family.
Back to Colts conversation on the other side. Plus, an athlete. I don't think you guys have seen this. one of the dumbest things I've seen a pro athlete do. I'll explain who it is and what they did on the other side. Hour number 2. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Wake up call on a Thursday.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Always enjoy our convos with Tom Crean. He's going to join us coming up here at 9 o'clock. Will Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, get to pick number 14? Some thoughts on that here in a few. ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller, I thought, had some interesting takes in regards to this current draft class, where Warren, who I think is probably the one that Colts fans most want, where he could possibly be there at 14. Again, for Purdue fans that understandably didn't make it till 11:30 last night, the Boilers have quite the second half, 47-28. They outscore Washington, come back and win that one. That is now 5 straight double-digit Big Ten wins for Purdue, and that's a fun one on Saturday. Are those the two Big Ten favorites, Purdue and Oregon, or should I look at those Michigan schools a little bit closer?
Yeah, I haven't seen. I think you should. Dusty May is actually playing a very big lineup at Michigan.
Michigan State won last night.
Yeah, and Michigan State's 6-0, I think, in the conference. I have not seen much Michigan State this year. Last year they went in. Everyone thought they were going to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they just cratered most of the year. So Tom Izzo's back this year, and I need to check out Sparty a little bit. I have not. I've watched Dusty May in Michigan a few times, and I like them, and I think they'll be, well seeded. Joe Lunardi had 13 teams from the SEC get in, and that's obviously been the story. He had
13 of what? How many are in the conference?
They have 20 now, don't they? Is it 18 or is it 20? I forget. It's 18 or 20. I think it's 18.
Is it really that many?
Oh yeah. I mean, they just kept adding. In the Big Ten, I think he had 11 going in the Big Ten. So, when we talk of the Big Ten and we talk about opportunities for Purdue to move up seeding-wise, obviously you can lose some games as well. The positive with that is if you lose some games and you're Purdue, it doesn't quite hurt you as much as, if you're in the ACC or Big East. I think he had the ACC getting 5 and the Big East getting 4. You lose some of those games, and, we talk about Butler, and they've lost so many games, but, you lose a game, suddenly it hurts you a lot more. In the SEC, on a Tuesday night, you play Florida, they're a top 10 team, then you turn around and play Kentucky or Mississippi State or Texas A&M. Those losses don't hurt as much, so that'll be something worth watching. We teased, before we dive back into the Colts, I teased before this segment that an athlete did something that I'm actually surprised by. I'm not surprised by things that athletes do anymore. We have seen guys do some very strange things, okay? Did you see what Karl Anthony Towns did last night? Did either of you see this?
No, and I hate him.
I don't know if I knew.
Yeah.
Because he beat Notre Dame in the NCAA tournament.
In the Elite Eight. Yeah.
It's, again, one of the best games I've ever been to. But I figured, what did he do in Minnesota that really bothered you, or half a season with the New York Knicks?
Yeah, let me be clear. Nothing else. Just purely one Elite Eight game in Cleveland in 2015.
Got no problem with that. So last night, now he's got another injury, which is actually, when we talk about, the Pacers and could they catch the Knicks at the 3 seed and everything else. So he's had a little bit of an injury. The Knicks last night played in Philly. They beat Philly, so they played the Sixers last night. Karl Anthony Towns is an Eagles fan. Karl Anthony Towns wore a green Fly Eagles Fly sweatshirt in Philly last night as a Knicks player sitting on the Knicks bench. And I mean, come on, you guys understand the relationship between Philly and New York. And he's being absolutely crushed. What would be the local example that we could use for Karl Anthony Towns? And what if something like that happened here? I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is a New York Knick. They hate Philly. Philly has owned the New York teams, especially the Giants. And my man is wearing a Philadelphia Eagles sweatshirt on the sideline as a Knicks player. Fair or foul ball by Karl Anthony Towns?
Fair.
Totally fair.
Fair.
How can you guys say that?
Why does he have to give us fandom just because he plays for the Knicks?
I mean, he's being crushed.
I tell everybody he's sticking.
He
What
is
do you
being
want him-
pulverized. To
Honestly,
hell with Philly.
He should wipe his you-know-what with Giants and Jets gear. That's
Well,
what he probably
might.
should do.
He probably should. Well, he might do that. He has enough money to do that. I mean, can you put it? No one said, hey, man, you play for a New York team. Maybe you don't do that. I mean, I don't know. I'd be like, what if Tyrese Halliburton wore a Tom Brady jersey?
No,
Come on now. If he missed a Boston game.
Let's not act like that's apples to apples.
I'm trying to find the local example that could get people fired up. Because people are pissed off about this. Anyway, I thought it was a silly
New York
thing.
in general. Everybody's pissed off.
I can't believe you guys are okay
The
with
sun's
this.
out today. I'm so mad.
It's a foul ball.
Mark,
It's a foul ball.
will you pull up Kurt Signetti's Twitter? Andy,
no.
Will you pull this up?
Okay, did he do it again? What did Signetti do?
So I'm listening to Signetti yesterday. He was on Pete Thamel, Reese Davis's podcast. Because, again, Signetti is what? Him and Penn State, the two teams that have played both, Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Okay.
So
I'm looking at it right now.
So I actually enjoyed the combo. I thought Signetti had some, it wasn't long insight, but he had like a, 8-10 minute thought with Pete Thamel on this matchup coming up Monday night. And I thought he had a lot of candid comments about Notre Dame and about Ohio State. And basically the Notre Dame thoughts were they live and die with that man coverage. And, that I think will be a huge, huge element to Monday. And then he said if the game gets close, he's like, Notre Dame has the intangibles. I mean, that was kind of the word he used. I know it's probably a buzzword, coach word to use, but that is something that I'm obviously hoping for of, can you muck it up? Can you make it ugly? Can you get a one-possession game? And who knows what can happen late. So Signetti just posted a picture of him in his office. Beautiful sight over Memorial Stadium. Really nice, comfy chairs, it looks like, in there. Postseason top 5 he has on his desk.
Yep.
1, the national champion. 2, the runner-up. 3, Oregon. 4, Indiana/Penn State. 5, Penn State/Indiana. Have you ever seen a head coach send out a picture tweet listing a hypothetical top 5 at the end of the season with a national title game waiting on? Like, what is he trying to tell us right now?
I don't know. What, did he think they're a top 5 team? I mean, that's what he's trying to tell us, right?
I guess. I'm so confused by it.
I don't know. I thought maybe you had a revelation because I'm reading this and I'm like, I don't totally understand what he's trying to tell us.
His caption is "Get better today. Structured, organized, and relentless work creates opportunities." And then he has a picture of, he's got pretty good handwriting.
He does have good handwriting.
And he's got his top 5 written down here.
His office is way too clean, though. I don't think there's a room in my house that's ever been as clean as Kurt Signetti's office.
Should Indiana be ranked number 4 or 5 at the end of the year?
I mean, it's got to be that. I thought,
Do we need to play that topic? Is that something that matters? Can we just say Indiana had a really good, great, historic season and not get too caught up in they lost to the 2 national? I mean,
yeah, well, they're not going to be a top 5 team at the end of the season.
I mean, they got smoked by the 2 national.
They got smoked by. They
look,
got smoked
they had a
by
great
Notre
season,
Dame.
historic season. And I've done this with Notre Dame before, trying to justify where they're at the end of the year like that. They had a great year.
If you don't win the national championship, who cares?
I mean, let's just kind of
who cares?
Let's kind of move on to the spring football season.
Who cares if you're 5 or if you're 7? I guess that's how I feel.
Kurt Signetti's also got a cleaning crew there. He's not doing that himself.
Of course, yeah. He doesn't have a vacuum. Does he
Our
have his
houses
own?
would look immaculate.
Does Signetti have his own? He has his own bathroom and shower there, I would imagine, right? Like if he spent the night in the office, he's good to go. Well, it's a Big Ten, you know.
Sorry,
he has so
big
much
boy,
money.
you got to hold it till the shift's over.
Yeah, head over to the Hyper, see if you can hop in one of those showers over there.
You got to get a hall pass.
Yeah.
That's okay. I got no problem with Signetti.
We had Matt Miller on, ESPN draft analyst, earlier in the week, and I did a mock draft look on our website. We'll do this probably once every couple weeks of, bring together some mock drafts and who is being pegged at the Colts. And of the 5 that I looked at here in the first one, 3 of them had Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. I am curious, Andy, more so of the would Warren be there at 14? Again, last year Brock Bowers was the 13th overall pick. That was a historic offensive draft, the first 14 picks being all on offense. This was Matt Miller's thoughts with us on if the Penn State tight end would fall all the way to 14.
I think there's a shot that you wouldn't have to move just because of positional value, which was the argument with Brock Bowers last year. He slipped because all those quarterbacks were drafted and all the wide receivers were drafted. So it's like, oh, wait, he's actually, falling down the board a little bit. So here's the fun thing. Like, would I be shocked if the New York Jets drafted him at 7? Like, let's say Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams decide to run it back, and they just say, hey, we need a middle-of-the-field weapon. Tyler Conklin's a free agent. We'll draft Tyler Warren. We'll make Aaron Rodgers really happy. That wouldn't shock me. It also would not shock me if he's available at 14 because we see, at least 2 quarterbacks are going to go, probably 3 wide receivers. A ton of pass rushers this year are going to go. So it would take something like that of teams saying, let's load up on the premium positions, quarterback, wide receiver, pass rusher, and then that would push him down a little bit.
Okay, so right now, your opinion, does he get to 14
No.
is what?
No.
I'm a no.
Yeah.
In fact,
no.
I'm a relatively strong no.
I think there's too much scarcity in the offensive talent in this draft class. It's probably a bit of a nerd draft item, but I think like the fact that Tyler Warren is like big, 6'6", and whatever, 250. I think the NFL people that are crazy about measurables will look at it and say, oh no, I actually like him even better than Bowers. Just because maybe more of a complete tight end, holding up for 17 games, holding up longer in his career. I do think we shouldn't write off the others, though, I looked at in that mock draft look. I had, again, 5 mock drafts in there. 3 of them were Tyler Warren. The other 2 were defensive backs. Will Johnson out of Michigan, the corner who really didn't play much this season, and Malachi Starks. He was one of those Georgia defenders that are supposed to go pretty high in the drafts. That's a safety and a corner. And I say that, Andy, because of this. If you're going to hire a new defensive coordinator, are you going to give that new defensive coordinator personnel he wants?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, you're going to play different next year. I mean, if we talk about a guy like Wink Martindale, I would imagine some of the guys on this Colts roster would fit what he wants to do, and perhaps a guy or two maybe would not fit what he wants to do. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
So I think that is something to keep in mind of just, are you overhauling that defensive system in any way, shape, or form to where you feel like personnel has got to be changed? And how do you go about acquiring that personnel? If you're going to be playing all of a sudden some heavy man defense and you're going to press more, does that mean that the corner, attributes that you used to look for in the past has changed a bit? So that would be a counter to like when I saw those 5 players and positions listed for the Colts, I think in a vacuum, if you were to say, hey, tight end needs an upgrade and so does the secondary, that makes a lot of sense. I would say both those position groups need attention, but I'm interested to see how that plays out of whoever this hire is at defensive coordinator, what personnel, if any, will change and how substantial will that change be?
Yeah, listen, I think Tyler Warren is one of those guys that not only what he can do catching the football, they put him back at Wildcat. You saw Penn State do a lot of that. If you watch Penn State, they did that all year. I know they did.
They moved him around.
Yeah, I mean, he was
so much.
He was all. I mean, you look at their wide receivers in that game. Did not have. Who did they lose to? I'm blanking. Oh, Ohio State. They did not, or Notre Dame. They did not
have a catch.
He did not have a catch. There's a lot of Tyler Warren in that game. He's a good run blocker, and dude, he's just a football guy with the crazy long hair. Like, he's just a football guy. Football guys are going to get in a room with him, and they're going to love him. So do I think he gets to 14? No. And then on top of it, I know Jordan Reed of ESPN and Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and there are others, I know you wrote about it, have Tyler Warren going 14 to the Colts. And I don't know, this is how I always feel, but early on in these early mock drafts in January and February, the guy that is slotted to go, especially mid-round, because you don't know what's going to happen with trades and injuries, and a lot changes in the evaluation process over the next few months. I always think the guy that's pegged to be taken there at the beginning of the mock draft season is not the guy that's going to get drafted. Do you remember the main couple names that were attached to the Colts last year? I do. Terrion Arnold, the corner. Quinyon Mitchell.
Right.
Wasn't there a wide receiver?
Probably Brian Thomas Jr.,
yeah,
right?
Boy, I tell you, wish could have him. But, those were the 2 or 3 names that were attached. And then there's also the Ballard factor. I mean, there's just a sense of sometime, he can make a pick that might be a little bit out of the box. I mean, Latu last year, we talked about just about everyone except for him. I mean, we talked about 5 or 6, 7 other defensive players before we got to him. So listen, we are the same this year. We both we're lusting after Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren should be taken by the Colts at 14. I think the next question is, Chris Ballard, hot seat. Shane Steichen, hot seat. The hole at tight end for the Colts has to be bigger than anyone in the NFL, does it not? Who is as bad at tight end catching the ball as the Colts? I can't think of anyone who is that bad. Would you move up 2 or 3 spots? Would you move up 4 spots? And I don't know the answer to that.
Part of me's kind of played that on my head of like, okay, let's say they had to trade their 14th pick and their 3rd rounder. And I don't know if the trade value chart equates to that, but let's just throw out the hypothetical to get to whatever, 9 or 10 to get Warren. That would leave you with one other premium draft pick for defense, theoretically.
Yeah, it would.
I mean, again, is that the message you're sending your defensive coordinator? And now,
I know.
I think free agency has to play into it. I think what you do in March has to have an impact on how you handle the draft. I know it doesn't necessarily need to be the sole, influence on that, but I think it does matter. I get that the roster building is different in the draft. It's a little bit more of core and kind of long-term players, and free agency is probably a little bit more supplemental, but I still think that is really, really important. And look, you're going to watch a team in Houston on Sunday that obviously, when they drafted C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr., absolute hits. And, huge, huge shifts in the organization. But whether it's Daniil Hunter, whether it's Danico Autry, whether it's Stephon Diggs, whether it's Joe Mixon, I mean, they went out and did a whole lot in free agency with the rookie contract quarterback. That is what needs to be explored heavily by the Colts here coming up in 2 months.
Well, this is what, KB, was an issue last year for us. When they didn't do anything in free agency, it doesn't give us a good roadmap to what they're going to do in the draft. And so this year, you're right. If they go out and they get I don't have a name for you, but if they go out and they get a pass rusher of some kind and they're spending nice money there, and they go out and they get a corner or a safety, someone in the defensive backfield, it's going to tell you perhaps that they're open to going after a guy like Tyler Warren. If they do nothing, I would have no idea where they would go. Now, if they go out and they make a move for a tight end and they go out and they get a corner and they're spending money, then you could look at a Jalen Walker. And these are names that we'll talk about the next few months. A Jalen Walker, who is an edge player from Georgia. James Pierce, who is the edge pass rusher for the Tennessee Volunteers. It opens up a better path that we think we could see what Chris Ballard is going to do. Last year, we were blind. I mean, they could have, tight end. Are they going to go corner? Are they going to go safety? Where are they going to go? And ultimately, they goes pass rusher. I would not be surprised if they went pass rusher again this year. I mean, the defensive line was that bad last year.
Well, not in Chris Ballard's eyes.
Well.
Justin, I feel like Ballard looks at mock drafts and decides that he's not going to take any of the players listed on the mock draft out of spite because he's a man of spite.
I mean, that's how I listen.
That's where the fan base is now. It's been 8 years.
When
Chris Ballard, man of spite. That's how people describe him.
When I see Tyler Warren on mock drafts, it actually saddens me. It makes me think he's not going to be taken by the Colts, or he's going to be gone there. And I hate that, and we're 3.5 months away from the draft.
Well, that will be curious. Is like if he's still there and they still pass on him. Can you imagine on draft night?
They have to take him.
Scott Agness in less than 10. I would say it's kind of a big one here coming up tonight. Pacers and Pistons. Weirdly, the Pistons are actually good, and the Pacers have a couple news items we'll hit on here at a morning check down. A reminder: Tom Crean going to join us coming up at 9 o'clock. Speaking of that morning check down, let's hit it.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
All right, 6 straight wins now for Purdue. They improved to 14-4, 6-1 in the Big Ten. They go on the road, one of those West Coast trips at Washington, playing the Huskies 69-58. That's your final. They actually trailed at halftime 30-28, trailed by 8, or 22, I should say. Big second half, 47-28, blowing Washington out in the second half. Braden Smith, great again, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, had 5 steals as well. Trey Kaufman-Renn with 19. Caleb First, who's given them some pretty good minutes the last couple weeks, 15-6 in the win. Purdue now on the road. They stay on the road at Oregon, 3 o'clock Saturday on NBC.
Again, Butler last night, they get a desperately needed victory over Seton Hall there. They were in control really throughout the second half and then started leaking oil majorly, held on for dear life, making their free throws. Patrick McCaffrey, a big runner, to seal that one. Their first win since December 3rd.
Excuse me, I'd like to return this jacket.
Certainly. May I ask why?
First bite.
That's Chris Ballard going to Macy's.
How did you find that so quickly?
I don't want this jacket anymore.
Tonight in Detroit, it's the Pacers, an underdog against the Detroit Pistons. Now, again, items to note here. Benedict Mathurin suspended for tonight. That was announced late last night. No surprise there. Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith both questionable. So, are you still playing more of this, Mark? Mark's just pressing random buttons over there.
His YouTube is all Jerry Goldstein at this point.
Jerry
Goldsmith.
Jerry
I apologize.
Seinfeld, yeah. Jerry Stiller, you're up next.
Jerry Goldsmith turning over in his grave knowing that Andy threw that out there.
You did kill him earlier in the show.
No, I didn't kill him. Mark killed him officially.
Mark's been dead for 20 years. I didn't kill him. I didn't even know who he was.
Unbelievable jams he created. Thank you, Jerry, for that. Tyrese Halliburton, again, questionable. So I would say, even if he doesn't play tonight, this is good news. The fact that he was just doubtful the other night, now just questionable. Clearly this injury isn't too severe. Left groin strain for that. Aaron Nesmith, this would be his first game since November 1st. Good luck penning a Pacers starting lineup tonight.
I know. You have no idea who's going to play. At this point, they need Halliburton, right? They need Nesmith out there.
So if no Halliburton, no Nesmith, no Mathurin, you'd go McConnell, Shepard, Nemhard, Siakam, Turner.
That's what I think they'll do.
And then what? Walker and Toppin then off the bench?
Yeah, and Carlisle talked about how, at times, if Halliburton's going to miss and obviously Nesmith, how they're going to have to go big. We haven't seen them have to do that very much. They're going to have to go big. Mike Woodson's going to love the way the Pacers play here in the next couple weeks. Let's take a break like we mentioned, but, no Mathurin tonight. What about Nesmith? What about Halliburton? How do the Pacers get the win tonight in Detroit? Scott Agness joins us next here on The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I'd say timing of this one worked out pretty well. It's Thursday, it's 8:30. Scott Agness joins us here. Obviously, a lot to get to on the Pacers front. But Scott, fresh into my inbox here. I don't know if you just saw this. I'm sure knowing you were probably all over it. But the Pacers just announced that they are going to break ground later this summer on a new performance center practice facility for the Indiana Fever. So this will be separate from the St. Vincent Center, which debuted in 2017. It's a $78 million place. This looks like going to be the west part of the old jail here downtown, if you can kind of picture where that is. 3-story, 108,000 square foot, going to be completed for the 2027 WNBA season here. So right now, and Scott, you can share this, they practice right now inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, correct? That Salesforce court in there, and then occasionally they practice on the actual main floor?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the locker room is below that court. During renovations, this is all included in part of renovations, they elevated the court because there was just tons of space in the air, so to speak, when you looked up. So they elevated that and then put a locker room, put a training facility, and a weight room right below it.
Gotcha. Okay, here I'm just kind of reading through the email right now. Sounds like, again, west half of the former Marion County Jail site, located at the corner of Alabama and Maryland. It'll connect via skywalk over that Virginia Street garage. So a new standalone Fever-specific practice facility. Construction to begin later this summer here in 2025, and then ready for 2027.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm seeing that in my email right now. Scott Agness with us, Fieldhouse Files. Scott, tonight, okay, so we have Neesmith and Halliburton. You know, Halliburton went from doubtful, and now he's questionable. Neesmith hasn't played since November, early November, and he's questionable tonight. Do you have a gut feeling if either guy plays? And then, especially for Neesmith, I would imagine they're going to have to ramp him up, and that might take a week or so.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with the latter point there. Don't expect Neesmith to come in and play 35 minutes or anything close to that. I think he'll kind of be in short bursts like you see the Pacers have done when players come back from injury. And this is even more than this. This is almost like Neesmith starting up his season. I think he only played 6 games, hasn't played since November 1st. And this is so it's 2.5 months off of basketball here. So he's coming basically without a training camp to ramp up as well, which makes it difficult. And his teammates are on a whole different level. So I don't know. I would expect Neesmith to play, and I would say maybe Halliburton to take it easy and rest for another couple games, just given like groin and hamstring injuries, those don't go away in one game. So I would be surprised if he plays.
Again, Pacers tonight up in Detroit. The Pistons actually have had a nice start to the season. They've won 10 of 12. Weirdly, this is the Pacers' only true road game until February 3rd. They're off to Paris next week for 2 of the Spurs. I guess those are kind of pseudo road games when you consider the crowd there for Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Scott, when you look at, I guess 3 weeks from today, if I'm looking at this calendar right, is the NBA trade deadline. I would say in general that thought process has probably fluctuated a lot for Pacer fans, maybe even internally, in how fans or the team have viewed the trade deadline here upcoming. Weirdly, with like seemingly the Pacers about to get healthy here very soon, how has your trade deadline opinion changed, if at all, here as it starts to near in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think perhaps you maybe have less urgency based on what we've seen in the last 15 games or so. Now, that given, I think the belief all along should have been if we can upgrade the team and find a way to do it financially sound way, let's try to do it because it's not a contending roster just yet. And I still think that is the case right now. And so I still think you're active in terms of talking with other general managers and seeing what you can get, seeing if maybe you can upgrade what you're trying to do either defensively or especially out on the wing spot to enhance what you're doing there. The other thing that we've said here for a couple of years is they're probably due here for a consolidation trade, right? When healthy, let's say Halliburton and Neesmith are both healthy. where do you find minutes for Jarris Walker and several other guys? I mean, I'm sure Ben Shepherd will still play, but he'd get less minutes. You're at a point where you could now go 10, 11 deep again, and you just don't do that, even up to 12 probably. You just don't do that in the playoffs. And so if you could do a 3-for-1 type trade and really upgrade, I think that's something that would be very helpful for where this team is trying to go.
Scott Agness with us here on this Thursday, Fieldhouse Files. He joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. A guy that we mentioned, I know it's been written about, it's been talked about, Cam Johnson of the Nets. Is that a guy you like? Do you think he would be a fit? Does that interest you as someone who follows the Pacers? And, what do you think they'd have to give up to get somebody like him? I mean, this is a guy that can average, 22, 23 a game.
Yeah, he's definitely a scorer there and does it at an efficient clip. He's a guy that everybody's going to talk about, right? Because it's the Nets, and we've seen a couple deals go down, and already the Nets were involved in both of them, right? Because this team is desperate. I mean, I didn't know what the final score was last night, but weren't they down like 50? Like, it was embarrassing. What's going on in Brooklyn right now is they're clearly rebuilding.
Hey,
but
Scott,
you're right. Yeah, that is exactly kind of the archetype.
Scott, they scored
that you're looking for with being your 6'8" wing. It'd probably take at least one first-round pick and a couple of players, I would think, maybe to get a return on him as well. Here's the other thing the Pacers have to factor in, though, is now what did they just do? They just came off of a summer where they paid so many guys, which also means now they got a lot more contracts on the books. Like, they are about $100,000 within the luxury tax right now. Plus, you don't have a center on the books for next season. So that, among everything else, is probably the number one thing the front office has to consider when trying to make these deals is what would a potential deal do to us financially for the next 3 or 4 years, right? Because you don't want to hard cap yourself, even though they're kind of hard capped as it is right now, just based on their circumstances here, which doesn't make things easy. But a guy with the archetype of Cam Johnson is what you're kind of talking here.
Scott, I'm looking at this, and sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at this. They lost by 59 last night. They lost 126-67. I've never seen a box score like this in the NBA.
Is that a misprint?
No, they were outscored in the second quarter 37-14. They were outscored in the third quarter 44-16. That's unbelievable. Their leading scorer was Jalen Wilson off the bench with 16 points. They only had two players, Reese Beekman, not Reese Beekman. Day'Ron Sharp had 12, and Jalen Wilson had 16. None of their starters went for double figures last night. They lost 126-67. Oh, my God. Oh.
Yeah, it's unreal. And so, I mean, I looked up at that score, and I thought it was a misprint as well. Like, what? Unreal. But that's the Nets right now. Them, like several other teams, are more forward-thinking and more focused on maybe capturing the flag, if you will.
Scott Agness, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his work. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I'm sure you have no surprise that Benedict Mathurin was suspended one game for tonight.
No, not really. That's essentially what's written in the rule book. You touch an official, there's a game suspension, and it's just the heat of the moment. He's got to have his emotions more in check. I mean, he's one of the most competitive players on this roster, no doubt about that. But this just reached that boiling point where it spilled over just a little bit. And so, that was fully expected for sure.
Yeah, he certainly complains about calls, but I have never seen him get to that level here in his NBA career. Tonight, Pacers and Pistons, a slight underdog, Indiana, in this one as we await official word on Aaron Nesmith's return and Tyrese Halliburton getting back in the lineup. Scott, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
That's Scott Agness right there, Payless Liquors hotline.
Just quickly to follow up on that Brooklyn story, just doing some reading. By the way, did you catch the capture the flag?
I did,
the Cooper flag?
I probably should have paid a little bit more attention to that.
Well, I think he was offended that we didn't say anything about it.
I know.
He had a nice little pun there.
Scott,
we just kind of went to the next thing.
If he's not back in REM sleep already, I apologize,
He probably is. I think the Nets are in trouble. Here's why. They have not tanked effectively this season. They have 14 wins. They're 14-27. I mean, there are three other teams that have fewer wins than them in the Eastern Conference, and there's 3 in the Western Conference as well who have fewer wins than them. They have done a poor job. The Nets are not getting Cooper Flagg. And I know they did what they did last night, and they pulled everybody out, and they said, we're just going to lose games. But they have already won too many games. They have 14 wins.
The Wizards are abysmal.
I mean, they have 14 wins.
Do we still do, like, the lottery? You know, it's not just if you have the worst pick, right?
You still have a chance.
You still have odds, don't you?
You still have a chance, but the whole point is you have the most. You want to get the most ping pong balls. You want the odds to be in your favor as much as humanly possible. And you're right. I mean, you could have the most ping pong balls and be number 2, 3, or 4. It happens all the time in the NBA. But the Pelicans, the Jazz, the Blazers, the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Raptors all have less wins.
The ping pong ball thing is such a weird way to do like sports draft stuff.
What do you think?
So weird.
Listen, there's a push that the NFL does it.
You don't like the machine?
Get the hell out of here.
So teams don't tank.
I love when they actually like drew them out on stage. Now we just get the cards, right?
I know.
Yeah, the frozen envelope.
Mm-hmm.
I like the lady that and the lucky ball is the Orlando Magic.
That's great. I'm with you. So good stuff from Agness. If you miss any of it, check it out, 1075thefan.com. Tom Crean going to join us in 20 minutes. It's a Thursday on The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Tom Crean, 15 minutes from now. Really enjoyed our combos with the former IU coach. I think he does great work on ESPN. He's going to join us coming up here in a bit, so looking forward to that combo. One additional Pacer thought I had. We just wrapped up a combo with Scott Agness. Again, trade deadline 3 weeks from today. Tonight, Andy, is the start of the second half of the season. So we are at the midway point. When you look at it, I would say the young lottery picks have made a positive step in Benedict Mather and Jarris Walker. I think that's a fair statement. Weirdly, oddly, not planned, you maybe have found your backup center of the future in Thomas Bryant.
It was a good move. I mean, they gave up.
And unfortunately, obviously the James Wiseman, situation, Isaiah Jackson situation plays into that. But now Bryant's a free agent, so that'll be something you have to sift through. Turner is a free agent, so those will be some things. But they've clawed their way back to 22-19. I could easily see them saying, "Hey, Aaron Nesmith is our trade deadline addition, if you will," with him now questionable. So, there's certainly part of me, Andy, that sits here and just says I could see them standing pat at the trade deadline.
Yeah, if you made me choose today, and again, like you mentioned, we're about 3 weeks away from the deadline. If you said, "Hey, what do you think they're going to do?" I would say they're going to stay as they are. You're going to get Nesmith back, if not tonight, in the near future. And so, as you enter the second half of the season and that trade deadline passes, you're going to have Aaron Nesmith, who will be at full strength. I think the thing that Scott brought up last segment is true, and that is there's going to be a guy or two that's just the odd man out. Now, the flip side of that is somebody is always injured, and I think that is true as well. So you might go 8 to 10 games where Jarris Walker and or Ben Shepherd's the odd man out, and then somebody's going to get injured, and then suddenly, those guys are going to end up playing 21 minutes, and it's going to be back to normal. The Pacers are in a spot to where they're in an odd spot. Trade deadline. Are you going to move first-round picks and a couple of these players that you've helped, grow, if you will? Are you going to do that for a guy like Cam Johnson? And then he mentioned, what are you going to do? We mentioned Thomas Bryant as the backup. What are you going to do with Miles? I know he's been a guy that seemingly every year there's been that conversation of Miles Turner. What are you going to do with him? But he is going to be a wanted man. I mean, he is a guy that can step back and shoot a three, can block shots. He's a fine rebounder, maybe not an elite rebounder, but he can get you 6 or 7 a game. So, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to put big money into a guy who's been with you for a decade? Or, as he gets older, are you going to let him, walk elsewhere? And then in the standings, they're 2 games away from being the 9 seed. They're also a couple games away of being the 3 seed, and they're chasing the Knicks. They're 5 games behind them, and Karl Anthony Towns is injured. And the Knicks, a stat came out.
And he's wearing Eagles gear.
He's wearing Eagles gear. It's disgusting. It's interesting. Someone did, I wish I could find this. The top 5 lineups, minutes-wise, in the NBA are all New York Knicks. So they're in an odd spot where the first half of the season, Tom Thibodeau wears these guys out.
Oh, he is nuts.
So their team has played so many minutes. Brunson, Towns, Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart. I mean, these guys have played more minutes than anybody in the NBA. Injuries. Eventually, do they rest them? So, they're right there. The East is so jumbled. You could be the 9 or you could be the 3 or 4. What the Pacers and other teams do around them is going to be interesting in the next 3 weeks, but I think they stay how they are. That's what I think.
It is one of Tom Thibodeau's biggest Achilles heels is he can't take his foot off the gas for the life of him.
He just can't do it.
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where his stops is or he
might
can't
be
do
a
it.
pun intended by that with some of the injuries.
So remember Joakim Noah dragging his foot in a meaningless game against the Charlotte Bobcats when the Bulls had the top seed locked up. Keep playing, Joakim.
He's done it his entire career. He did it in Minnesota, he did in Chicago, and he's doing it right now with the Knicks. So, when you get to game 60, how is that going to affect things? And I don't know the answer to that.
Tom Crean going to join us here in 10. You've cut up some Lou Holtz audio?
Well, I have.
And this is being played at Ryan Day's final night speech. This will be Sunday night in the Westin down in Atlanta.
This is not the tweet. The tweet that you read earlier Lou Holtz was like, I wasn't going to be there, but now I'm going to try to be there. And if Notre Dame loses, it's just so we could keep Ryan Day employed, okay, which is a hot take. But he didn't say that in a 5-minute video that he released. Let's play, I guess, both of these. They're about 35 seconds each. Lou Holtz thinks Notre Dame wins the game, shockingly, on Monday. Go ahead.
The best football team in the country is Ohio State. They have a great coaching staff. I think their defense coordinator is outstanding, and Chip Kelly's done a good job with the offense. And Coach Day does not get the credit he should deserve for the tremendous accomplishments he's had. However, they have the highest paid NIL. They have a great team. They're very talented on offense and defense. The list goes on and on. But I believe the University of Notre Dame will prevail in this football game. Not because we have the best football team, but I think we have the best culture. Culture will beat talent each and every time.
Come on, Lou.
I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
I may think
Culture,
Notre Dame wins,
baby.
but culture doesn't always beat the best talent. I wish you
Should
were
Marcus
right.
Freeman take the last names off the jerseys and put culture?
I love them. They have all the NIL at Notre Dame, or at Ohio State. Like the Notre Dame guys are begging for money.
Culture won championships. The Colts would have like their 10th banner in a row.
That's
right?
unbelievable. Here's Lou Holtz. He doesn't hate Ohio State.
Well, I don't get.
Oh, sorry. Wrong one.
Come on.
Whoops. My bad.
People think I'm anti-Ohio State. Nothing could be further from the truth. I was raised in the state of Ohio. I went to college at Kent State in Ohio. Our motto, we can't read, we can't write, but we are Kent State. I coached at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. We won the national championship. There's no coach that's had a greater influence on my philosophy and my belief as a coach than Woody Hayes. So I love Ohio State. It's just that they have a statue of me at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a very special place. As I would say to our team all the time, remember, man, we're Notre Dame and they ain't. And I use the word ain't for emphasis, not to illustrate the caliber of education I received at Kent State University.
And coming up next, Senator Tommy Tuberville going to join me. Yeah.
Oh, God bless him.
But
Lou
he's
Holtz
so,
was like born in Ohio, and was Ohio even like recognized as a state yet at that point in 1803?
But he's so nice and kind, and he's the grandfather there. Lou, sweet Lou, Dr. Lou, I want you to ether Ryan Day so we can play that sound. Come on, Lou.
I don't get.
Come on.
Right, man, come. But they're.
He decided to throw it on Twitter instead. 88-year-old Lou Holtz.
He looks good for 88, I got to be honest.
Oh, that was a smooth video. I watched the whole thing. That was great. 5 minutes, just constant chatter.
Cutting that, I had to watch it
They promised
twice.
him soup at the end. That's why.
How great are the Kent State comments in there?
It is funny. Watching 10 minutes of Lou Holtz at 5 a.m., not exactly what anyone wants to do. I'm like, come on, Lou.
Marcus
ether
Freeman's
Ryan
just
Day.
begging John Cooper to, utter some shots at his program so he can all of a sudden go there for Monday night national championship motivation.
Oh, goodness.
I saw Feinbaum's got Ohio State by 2 to 3 touchdowns. Reese Davis, I think, said 30-13. Is that where we're trending? Is Notre Dame going to get their ass kicked?
I think nationally that's what you're going to get a lot of. The biggest worry is Riley Leonard throws, a pick six earlier. They have a big fumble early, and it gets away from them like it got away from Tennessee. Wasn't Tennessee 21-0, 17-0, something like that, and they didn't have a chance at Ohio State. You could say those two teams, Tennessee and Notre Dame, are somewhat similar in their style of play.
The real question is, how's the ticket process going for you?
Oh, boy.
Anything?
We're struggling.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, quote Joe Namath.
Struggling.
Struggling.
Yeah.
Kiss Susie Colbert for tickets.
Speaking of tickets, if you go on and you look at like the Pacers' upcoming games, it's like $8 to get in the door tonight, like $12 the next game. To get into the door at these games in Paris
I saw that.
is $900.
Is that a big venue? Do you know?
I have no idea. But these people are going to flip out over seeing Wemby, which is totally. Speaking of Wemby, did you happen to see last night? We'll go to break here in a second. Did you see last night? I took a picture of this. So Wemby did a jersey swap with a kid. Did you happen to see this?
No, all I saw was Edie got him early, and then he got Edie right before halftime, and then Ja Morant had the potential dunk of the year, but did he throw it in the rim or not?
Oh, I have not seen that dunk, I'll be honest. So I think this was in Memphis. I think it was last night. So Wemby notices there's a fan. There's a young kid. Okay, this kid looks like 5 years old, 6 years old,
God,
whatever.
He had 8 blocks last night.
It's ridiculous. So the kid's wearing a Wemby jersey. Wemby goes over and says, let's do a jersey swap. So he takes his jersey off, his game-worn jersey, gives it to the kid. The kid gives him the small jersey that, a 7-year-old would wear, and they do the picture, right? The jersey swap. You see that all the time in the NBA and the NFL. This morning, the Wembanyama jersey hits eBay.
That one?
The kid's family put it on eBay.
The kid's father's selling it for $10,000.
I think this was actually about a week ago. Wemby goes, it already's up for auction. Yeah, the family got it. We got the picture and everything with Wemby. They took the jersey and they put it on the internet.
They just know from the patch on the jersey or something.
I don't know how they verified it or how people are verifying it on the website, but it's an AH thing to do, is it not?
Yeah. Right? We already got our $22 jersey from, China, and now we're just going to use yours.
Yeah, the dad's just like, here, son, it's the same thing. And
the
he's like, I'm taking this one, and I'm going to make
if Max had a Brady Quinn jersey and Brady Quinn came over.
Stitched it with my singer, when you went to bed the other night.
Class act right there, Dad.
It's like, what are we doing, man? You can't give anyone anything. You can't give a good, heartfelt sports moment to anyone without the jackass mom or dad putting it immediately on the internet.
That is pretty
At least he's going to Paris, though. That'll be fun.
Those tickets are $900.
Next Thursday,
that man on the Spurs is very tall.
Week from today, afternoon game for the Pacers, right? 2:00 or something.
Yeah, no JMV, a shortened Jake and Jimmy.
And then Saturday, a week from Saturday, they play 2 over there, the Pacers and Spurs.
Yeah, it should be fun. That should be fun. That'd be a fun
It is a
trip.
bummer for Pacer fans if you want to be all serious about it, of you don't get Wembanyama in your own building and you didn't get Steph Curry.
No, Golden State said everybody. I mean,
you think about
Wiggins,
the 2 individual
Draymond.
tickets that probably mean the most, the West Coast teams, you only see them once a year.
Yeah.
Especially
it's
Wembanyama, I think, at this
it's
point.
ridiculous. All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, what's wrong with the Hoosiers? Purdue 6 straight. Tom Crean joins us next.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, good Thursday morning to you. Thank you for continuing to spend it with us. 9 o'clock hour here. We enjoyed the conversations with him on several occasions last season. I think he does outstanding work on ESPN, and we appreciate his time with us. That would be the former Indiana coach. He is Tom Crean. He joins us now here on this Thursday morning. Coach, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You know, when we thought about having you on, part of the reason was obviously we love that you're inside in college basketball, but, Thomas Bryant has been such a great find for the Pacers here over the last month or so, and he spoke very highly of you a couple weeks ago when he joined one of our shows. But I actually wanted to start here because I think you do have a very close relationship with your former players, and sadly, I know you tweeted this out last night, just tragic news here locally of Aaron Etherington and the passing of him. And I know you obviously coached and recruited. His brother Austin played for you for a couple seasons down there in Bloomington, and it sounds like a lot of Austin's former teammates will be coming into the state for the funeral. So I just want to give a chance for you to offer your condolences to the Etherington family.
Well, that was really, really tough. I found it out on Tuesday night, and right away reached out to Austin and really our whole group. And unfortunately, I was the first some of them heard of it, and I wasn't sure how it was all played out. I didn't have a lot of details at that point. But long story short, there's been texting conversations and prayers, and I know that they are doing a really good job, as much as you possibly can do, with Austin and with his family. And Austin's a grad of Indiana. I mean, he was 3 years with us. Obviously, then he graduated and he went and played at Butler. And he's doing an excellent job. The oldest in that group of Alex and Aaron, and just been he's an older brother, but he's also been – there's father figures there. He's got Brett and Missy, his parents, who they all love dearly. And Austin had a huge role in that family. And I just can't imagine. I mean, I really can't. I mean, there's no words for it. There's nothing you can really say. All you can really do is pray for God's peace to come to them as much as it possibly can. But it's times like this when you don't ever see them coming, but it's times like this when your teammates, there's a reason they become so connected through hard things, through shared adversities, through the sacrifices, through the good things, all those different things when they're playing, because it's times like this when it really comes into light just how good your friends are. And I think that's exactly what Austin's going to see. And I'm sure it's probably the same way at Butler, but he's going to see that, and the family is going to see that. And there's going to be a lot of prayers said for that family over not only the next coming days, but the coming years.
Yeah, I was talking to one of Austin's former teammates. Sounds like you, Coach, have been extremely supportive. So I'd probably speak for a lot of people. And just thank you for that. And obviously, well said with those words. Just extremely, extremely tragic situation. When you speak to former players, obviously no easy transition off of that. But, again, Thomas Bryant came here to the Pacers. I think most fans certainly saw, even in Indiana, that personality is pretty infectious and it's a high-energy guy. You tweeted a couple weeks ago about that energy and just how much he's impacted the Pacers. What do you remember about maybe kind of your first observations of Thomas as a player? Now this is an NBA career. It's going to go on for, I would say, definitely a decade here. And he's carved out a great, great niche in a league that can be difficult to do that.
Sure. Well, first of all, he's so happy to be there. And this is what happens. You are not entitled to an opportunity. And I think so many times when players go into the league or when they come into college, because they've had some of that entitlement and enablement over the time, they feel like they're entitled to it there. And Thomas has had to work his way up into this. He was a second-round pick. He spent most of his first year in the G League. He ends up going to the Wizards. He still holds the single-season field goal percentage record in Wizards history. And then obviously the next year, after a great year, he got hurt. And so he's had the ups and downs of this. He's got a ring with the Nuggets. He was playing great for the Lakers. And then all of a sudden AD comes back and somebody decides that well, you know what, Thomas isn't going to get his minutes. So he ends up going to Denver and He's been through so much. So when you get an opportunity like this, you appreciate it and you run with it even more. And that's exactly what he's doing. And I think what we saw at Indiana is now just a more mature, older version of that for the Pacers. Is he brings an infectious energy, and it's every day. And if something happens, if he gets in a bad mood about something, man, he can get out of it quick, and that energy can change. And I don't know the Pacers locker room, but I would think that was something that they could use. That was something they could need. And I just think so much coincides with, him being valuable to them in whatever role they play, him appreciating it, the fact that they've gotten better communication defensively there, because Thomas is a talker. I think he's a part of why their communication is better. He's not the only reason. I think their defensive intensity, their defensive attack, their defensive pickup has increased. Certainly Tyrese Halliburton has got a new lease on life defensively in there for them, and he could always score, but now he's playing so much better, defensively. And I think Thomas helps that. He's just a guy you want to be around. And for us at Indiana, that's exactly what it was. I mean, you coached him every day to be better. You coached him every day to improve what he had to improve on. I spent so much time over those 2 years just coaching him personally on lifting his legs. He had such speed, but sometimes he'd almost like shuffle, rather than sprint. And so when you get a player that's really young, you have to find the things that they have to get better at that aren't necessarily with the ball in their hands. It's certain athletic traits. And every big I've coached at Indiana and beyond has had those certain things that you've got to push and you got to really focus on. And Thomas just kept growing into his own, and he did so many great things at Indiana. And obviously I left, he left, but that time frame, and we don't win the Big Ten without him his freshman year. We certainly don't beat Kentucky in the Final 32 without what he did. And he just kept improving, and his teammates loved him. And I think that's what the Pacers are finding.
You know that voice. It's the voice of Tom Crean. He joins us here on this Thursday on the Wake Up Call on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, looking at your Twitter, I know a lot of Indiana fans are reaching out to you constantly, I should say, about, hey, how can this be fixed? Iowa and Illinois, 2 ugly losses for the Hoosiers. How can Mike Woodson turn things around for this team in the middle of Big Ten play?
Well, they've had some success. There's no doubt that when they've had success, it's kind of looked the same, and when they haven't had success, it's kind of looked the same. And to me, with an analyst hat, with a coach hat on, big picture part first, they've got to get an identity of rebounding. I mean, they're not. It's not even close when they don't play well on the offensive glass, and it comes down to effort. It comes down to, and by effort I mean going. I don't mean getting it. I mean going, and like going for real. Not running into a back and stopping, not watching. There's way too much of that, because most of the games that I watch for television, I also chart them like I coached, right? I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed most about television is when I watch the game, it's still like game planning. And so the offensive rebounding and the defensive rebounding, the lack of hitting, physicality, awareness, those things all play into it. And I think big picture, that's got to be key. But to me, when teams struggle against teams that really spread it out, like an Illinois, like an Iowa, it's not necessarily how they spread it out. It's how quick they get it up the court. And in charting the game the other night, of the 60 points in the first half that Illinois scored, 34 of them came in the first 10 seconds of the clock. And Iowa, I don't know the exact numbers on that one, but watching that game, it was much the same. Teams are attacking early, and I think there's got to be they've got to get the ball stopped early. They've got to get communication picked up early. They've got to be more ready defensively early on, whether it's a pick and roll, whether it's a quick three, whatever it is. And Illinois does that to teams. I mean, that's how they buried Oregon so early a couple of weeks ago out in Oregon, and those things have to be taken. But I know Ballo gets a lot of negativity, and Ballo is watching him all these years, didn't see him as much at Gonzaga, but the couple of years at Arizona, he didn't go in the portal because he was getting the ball the way that he liked it at Arizona. That kid wants the ball, right? That was a big deal when he went into the portal. It was a big deal with wherever he went to. And in all honesty, he's right. When he gets the ball on the break, when he gets the ball in early seals over the tops, not only can he score, but he can put the other team in foul trouble. And people say, well, he's not running hard enough. He's not running hard enough because, to me, there's got to be more demands on that. This is not – I know early in the season I looked at his conditioning and I didn't think it was great. And I still think his conditioning is almost selective conditioning to me, because there was a play the other day where he hedged on the ball screen. And he got beat a couple times in this, obviously, with Reitz, the way that he could shoot it. But he showed a level of lateral quickness in playing the ball and getting back to the shooter. There was one play in particular, hedged on the ball screen, got back to the shooter, shot goes up, he gets down the floor, he gets fouled in transition. That didn't take a lot of time. There's also plays in the game where early in the game, I think it's 12-8, something like that, 15-minute mark, he doesn't even get down the court, okay, and it becomes a 5-on-4, and he never gets across half court to get into the play. That's the same guy, right? So the bottom line is there's got to be more demands on what he's doing. They definitely miss Renault. I mean, maybe they're not as good when they play them together, but they certainly miss having another big. But the biggest thing I'll say about when I watch them play and when they're successful or when they're not successful, it starts with the guards. And I don't know if that's popular opinion. I don't know how people see it. That's how I see it. The guards are not doing enough to make everybody else better on the floor. There's not enough movement at times. There's not enough random basketball is not dribble into a shot. Random basketball is spacing. It's driving and kicking. It's making the next pass, then another pass. And the old adage, and we lived on it everywhere I've coached since I've heard it, is the ball finds energy. And the ball doesn't find a lot of energy a lot of times in that offense. And it's not that it just stops. It's that it doesn't keep moving in a quick pace. So it may get passed, but it gets passed because there's not another option to shoot it. And I think it starts with Galloway and Rice and Carlisle. And I think those guys, we can look at the shooting. You can look at the missed shots. Yeah, that's part of it. They also have the capability of making everybody else better on that team. And it starts at the point of attack on defense. When we recruited Kanan Carlisle at Georgia, he was one of the absolute best on-ball, pick-up, full-court defenders that I'd recruited. I mean, without question, when he was a younger player. That's still in him, right? And so much of this comes down to, are you going to make each other better? In this day and age, it's really, really hard to get a team to understand they have to play for one another. Transactional world now with NIL, with portal, all that stuff, everybody's dealing with it. But it's the teams that come together that figure out, like, this is us. This is us. No one's coming to save us. We got to make each other better. We got to be more committed to what we're doing on the glass. We got to be more committed to each other. And it's got to be demanded and brought out. And because they've definitely shown that they are capable of doing some good things. But it's a very inconsistent way of going about it. They look the same a lot of times when they win. They look the same when they lose. And that's something that obviously can't go on. And I would be as focused as I could possibly be on getting Ballard that ball in transition in a one-on-ones. Not where he can go into a dribble and lose the ball like he did against Iowa, but get him in situations where he can score quick. And I think his energy goes up in that type of situation. And then you just keep demanding that he needs to see the things he can do well and then be held to a standard to make sure that he's doing them. And when he's not doing them, obviously when Renault comes back, then maybe that helps motivate him a little bit more to do those things.
Some great insight here from former IU coach Tom Crean. Obviously, you see his work on ESPN as well, back in studio here coming up in a little over a week. Coach, one more on the IU front from me. I would say it's probably fair to say that, over the last, half dozen years, they have largely been a consistently underperforming program in regards to certainly how much resources that program has, how much invested into it. You want to go off of recruiting rankings, however you want to label it. What do you think is kind of the root cause of just a program like that has consistently underperformed?
I don't know, because the hard part is I don't know the players. And I think you can't make judgments. Like I know Carlisle from the recruiting and have seen all these guys. I mean, recruited Jabari Smith when Miles Rice played with him. And it's always hard to judge when you don't know the players, you don't see the practices, you don't know the locker room. So I just try to go based on observations of a body of work, and consistency. And there's so many things that go into it. Right, but let's use Luke Goody as a good example. I think the two guys on that team that create the most energy for their teammates are Goody and they are Anthony Leal. Okay, so why is that? Are they the best players? No, they're not. Are they the most consistent shooters? No, they're not. But there's a level of effort. There's a level of hustle. There's a level. We had it. We had really good players. We had pros, right, at times. But we don't make it without Nick Zeisloff and Max Bierfeld's improvement. We don't make it without the improvement of, obviously, Victor, with what Victor did with the energy. But Victor and Will Sheehy were the two guys that changed the energy of our program because they were always in movement. It wasn't just being in the gym. It was the way they moved. It was the way they attacked. There was an energy to them. And I could go on and on. Colin Hartman was like that for us. That's why it was such a crusher when we lost him my last year at Indiana, and he got hurt early in the season, and we didn't have him. Derek Elston was like that for us. I can go right on down the line. The bottom line is there's not enough consistent, make each other better energy that I've seen, that you absolutely not only have to recruit, but you have to develop it. You have to reward it. You have to continue to seek it out, because here's what's different from when I coached there, okay? The NIL is completely different. I said this maybe last year. My last year at Georgia was the first year of the NIL. We had $4,200. Now there's not an SEC program that's probably anywhere near under $4 million, including Georgia, right? Like, these programs have so much money. So, like, everything has changed. The portal has changed it. It's become harder and harder to get guys to understand that they have to play for each other. Every team, and I had numerous teams like this at Indiana. I had them at Georgia. Everybody has this, that has any type of good program. You have numerous guys in your team that all think they're going to the same place at the same time, and that's the NBA. They all think. It doesn't matter what you think, what I think, what a writer thinks, it doesn't matter. Our perception is not their reality. Their perception is their reality. And what happens is you get a lot of players that all think they're going to the same place at the same time, whether we believe it or not. And you have to understand that as you coach them. And you have to continue to get them to see they're not going anywhere without each other. And you have to keep it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to keep doing it. And I'm not trying to be negative on coaching. This is coaching in general. This could be Indiana. This could be any place. You have got to get your guys to understand on a continual daily basis that they're not going anywhere without each other. And because, like the other night, how many NBA people do you think were at that game? I mean, when you got Illinois, who's got a couple of first-round picks, I mean, they got 4 freshmen. Because I know they're calling Ivisic a sophomore, but he never played in college before. That team is loaded, right? So you just think about how many NBA people watch that game, and then everybody's got it on tape. The bottom line is, if you don't make each other better, if you're not committed to energy, if you're not committed to doing the hustle things, the hard work things, laying it out, especially at a place like Indiana, because there's no place in the country that respects hustle, determination, extra effort, caring about your teammates. There's a lot of programs that care about it and a lot of fan bases that care about it. Nobody's bigger than Indiana on that. That's how it's built. And so you may not have lived in it to understand that, but that's how you win in basketball if you're going to be successful anywhere. It's just appreciated and rewarded so much more at a place like Indiana, because that's how people see the game, and that's how it was built to be what it is. So that's the thing to me that is so hard, and you got to coach that your entire staff nonstop every day to get them to understand how important each other are to each other's success presently and moving forward in the future.
That's the voice of the great Tom Crean joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, I got to be honest, I could listen to you talk college basketball all day. I mean, I want your thoughts on the SEC and the Big Ten and everything else, but we can end with this. Purdue, Matt Painter loses, Mason Gillis and Zach Edey, and, Zach Edey's playing in the NBA right now, and Purdue is still a top 20 team. They've won 6 straight. They won 5 straight in the Big Ten. What have you seen? What has interested you the most watching Purdue early on this season?
Oh, just level of improvement. It's constant with him. I mean, and that's why Matt's a great coach, and he was a great coach when I coached against him. And he's even better now because what Matt's done even since I've left there is he's had to change how he plays. And he does a great job. Like after I left, it was way more screens when he had Klein and Carson Edwards as they got older. It was way more screening, double staggers, misdirection, type of things like that to get the shots. Then they developed Zach, which is one of the all-time great development stories in the history of basketball. Forget Indiana or the state of Indiana basketball. It's one of the greatest development stories because of where he was when they got him. But what Matt does is they get better and better. I think they're better defensively. I still think guarding the ball is still something that's important. But here's a great example. Okay, Trey Kaufman-Renn. I'm sure when Trey Kaufman-Renn went to Purdue, first off, he probably didn't see himself being there that long. Most kids don't, right? They see themselves being able to be pros early. What they have done with him, when they beat Alabama, I think it was early in the year, and they just put him in the post, and he just dominated the game from the post up. And that's development. That's doing what it takes for the team to win. This is how we're going to play tonight, and this is how we win the game tonight. And because you're skilled, because you're developed, because you have versatility in your game, now you can turn around and you can put 19, 20 points on a team like Alabama and win the game. But the Braden Smith thing, that is real. There's a level of, and I don't know him. I watch him all the time, but there's a level of toughness. There's a level of determination. There's a level of awareness and basketball IQ that's enormous. But there's a level of skill that just continues to increase, and he just keeps adding to his game, and they just get better and better. And I think, like, even when their freshmen have good games or bad games, right? Braden Smith is always there. He's doing for them what Yogi did for us, and Yogi really did it later in his career to this extent, but Braden's been doing it for a long time. You feel safer and more confident because you're in the game with that guy. That's what Yogi developed into. He's obviously one of the great winners in Indiana history, and he could score, and he was a point guard and the assist leader. But it wasn't until later in his career that he truly understood that he wasn't going to be great if everybody else didn't feel good about it and wasn't successful too. And I think that's what made Yogi Yogi, and Braden Smith is just doing that at a younger age, and I think it's real. And I think that kid is going to be – he's going to make the NBA, and he's going to play in the NBA for a long time because you can't find enough guys that can do that, and especially with the level of improvement that these guys make. So Matt just keeps getting it. Matt's tremendous. It's a great state right now for basketball. Thad Matta is a proven winner. I know they won last night. I know it's been tough. That league is ridiculously tough. Micah Shrewsbury's doing a great job. The fact that he's got Burton back now is going to make a difference for him. John Kaufman is still one of the great unknown coaches in the country to me. I know they just won a big game last night at Reitz State. I know I'm forgetting other guys, but Indiana's a great state to watch basketball in right now, and I just hope Indiana can get figured out what they've got to do to make each other better and be more demanding of themselves in that, because they got enough talent. There's no doubt about that.
It is always terrific insight. Coach, we can't thank you enough. We'll certainly be watching next time on ESPN. Best to you and the family, and a sincere thanks to what I think you are doing for the Etherington family. So thank you, Coach.
Well, and I would say this. I know you got listeners that know them. This is obviously the tragedy of the time right now, but that family is going to need a lot of support and care and love and people looking after them long after this weekend. And I hope people that will do that, because it's just it's an unspeakable tragedy. And that's where I hope the fans of Indiana and Butler, I mean, remember now, Austin's an Indiana grad. I mean, he went in there. He was a part of that class with Cody and Remy Abel. He's one of us, and that is a basketball family, I should say. And I hope people will really look after them the best that they can.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
That's Tom Crean right there.
That's
Extremely
great
well
stuff.
said from him. And again, beyond thoughts and prayers with the Etherington family. I know Aaron played for Paul Casaro back at Indy as well. So very, very tragic. Mark will splice that one out. That will be Tom Crean will have his own individual podcast up on our podcast page here when the show wraps up. So we are very much up against it. Cannot thank Coach enough. Let's get to a abbreviated morning check-down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
Yeah, quickly, Purdue winners last night, 69-58. Brain Smith, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals in the win. They stay out west. Oregon coming up Saturday, 3 o'clock on NBC.
Yes, Tom Crean said there, Butler got a much-needed one last night, 82-77 over Seton Hall. They held on for dear life. They're late, and up north tonight, the Pacers and the Pistons. Slight underdog. Some key injuries. Let's update you on the other side on those injuries and where things stand for the Pacers. And they will be without one key guy we know for tonight.
Yeah, we'll talk Pacers on the other side. Pop quiz coming up in 20 minutes. It's a Thursday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Again, a big thanks to Tom Crean. We'll make sure to splice that out on the podcast. And Mark said it really well to me during the break. I'm like, gosh, that's always just great stuff, and he can just go and go. And Mark pointed out, yeah, but it's not boring. Sometimes we've had guests on that.
Oh, he's fantastic.
And hell, you and I can probably raise our hands. Sometimes we can go and go, and it can be a tad boring. I think it's terrific insight from him. So I think Indiana fans, even Purdue fans there at the end, will enjoy that convo, or just fans of basketball in general. Again, couple of Pacer notes to throw out there, Andy, for tonight. We know that Benedict Mathurin is out, suspended that one game. I believe the official language was the contact and a verbal element to it. So I think kind of the double whammy there. Obviously, the physical contact, probably what most contributed to the one-game suspension. And now we'll wait word on Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith. Obviously, two very different absences. Halliburton's has been just one game, but the fact that he's questionable for tonight has got to be an encouraging sign. And then Nesmith, we haven't seen him questionable in, 2.5 months? November 1st?
Was it November 1st? I think we said earlier in the show.
I think he's missed like 35 or 36 games in a row.
I know the Pistons are favored by about, 2.5. I think the last time I looked last hour. I don't know who to pick in this game. I'm kind of going Pistons, but I don't know. If you get 15 minutes of Aaron Nesmith and he plays well and Tyrese can get out there, and obviously whenever he plays, that's going to help the team. I don't know. I think the Pacers can go on the road and win. The flip side is Nesmith needs a couple more days. You sit Tyrese because groin, hamstring, whatever. You don't want that to become a major injury. So you're safe. You're still dead smack in the middle of the season. And you don't have Mathurin. Then I don't feel very good at all, quite frankly, about the Pacers going in there and winning. So we're going to have to wait, I guess, till a little bit later in the afternoon to get a little bit of clarity. I hate doing that. That's a sellout move, but it is what it is. I don't know who's going to play tonight.
Weirdly, it is like a kind of a sneaky potential playoff ramification.
Listen, I agree with you. It's a sneaky big game for the Pacers.
The Pistons are 21-19. I don't know if they're going to have staying power necessarily, but again, they're kind of in the general range of where Indiana is, and so far you've split the first two meetings with them, so it does matter for the Pacers there. All right, we'll push pop quiz here coming up in about 10 minutes. I think it's time for a little Mark Dykton action.
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies.
What?
High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you two punks, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on.
Okay, boys, do we want to divert from... I'll give you the choice. Do you want to divert from sports and go a little off the wall, or do you want to go with sports and then go off the wall?
Ooh, let's go off the wall, then sports. How does that sound? Is that good with you guys?
Sure. All right, let's go then. First celebrity crush, who was it?
Jessica Simpson.
Boy, you answered quick on that one. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think mine had to be Kelly Kapowski.
I am right there with you.
I think
very good.
And then
I feel like that, if you did a poll, and we're all in the general same age range, like if you, 35 to 45, I don't know. I feel like that would probably be the most popular answer.
Topanga would be up there as well. I think
she still gets it done.
She would be on the podium, but if I had to go, it'd probably be Kapowski.
On the podium. Boy, I'm sure Topanga loves hearing that.
I mean, come on.
Oh, she still looks great. She was on Monday Night Raw last week. And,
was she really?
Lord. She was in the crowd, and the crowd went wild.
I'm sure they did.
Let's let it stand that Topanga is still a big thing in 2025. Kelly Kapowski for me, too.
Yeah,
I was watching
That's easy.
Saved by the Bell. I'm like, every high school girl looks like Tiffany Amber Thiessen and Elizabeth Berkley, right? Right.
Saved by the Bell still do some reruns?
Yeah, they're on like IFC or something like that. I've like Saturday mornings they're still rolling out.
Really? I haven't seen them.
out there.
IFC. It sounds like something like Greg Rakestraw would MC like an IFC banquet.
Hey,
Did you
Greg
guys ever-
Rakestraw with IFC.
Did you guys ever? That's pretty good. Did you guys ever get into the college years when they did Saved by the Bell?
A little bit.
I gave
Yeah.
it a chance, but I think I hated it.
Yeah.
I mean, Leah Remini was on that or something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's
so
fine.
All right, what's
There's an
next?
older Kelly Kapowski, which I was a fan of that as well. Okay, since we talked about this last week and Kevin Venmo'd me money to watch it, your favorite sports movie or least favorite sports movie is what?
Oh man.
Like, my favorite is Remember the Titans. I love that movie. I think it's fantastic.
Right.
Anytime it's on, I can watch it. I very much enjoy it. I think my least favorite, I got to think about that one for a minute.
Well, I mean, the easy answer for me would be Rudy.
Shock.
But I actually will probably go with Mighty Ducks.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, Bombay, he had me running through a brick wall there when they put on the different jerseys there for the third period against Iceland. So I'd probably go there.
Does Talladega Nights count?
Yeah, sure.
I'll
works.
throw that one in there.
Yeah, I'd probably go more comedy, but that's an outstanding movie.
I mean, I think you go comedy, Talladega Nights, and Caddyshack's the OG.
I mean, you fall into to me, like Happy Gilmore is like more of a comedy,
right?
You know,
I liked Miracle enough. It's an uplifting one.
Yeah, Miracle is great. Yeah, I mean,
you know one that.
How about Sandlot?
You know one that
Sandlot's
that's a very
fantastic.
Good one.
Don't tell our program director though; he doesn't think it's a baseball movie.
One that I'm going to be anti, even though I don't hate this movie.
What does he think it is?
It's a story about
children, about
friendship. We got in a heated debate on
this.
These airwaves years ago, and we lit up the phone lines because of it.
So my anti one, I think, is going to be Moneyball. The reason I say that, I like Brad Pitt.
That's a hot
they
take.
tried to act like, who was the catcher? Was it Hannigan? What was the guy's name? Oh, I'm blanking.
Not Ryan Hannigan, was it?
No, remember, they tried to act like that the Moneyball got him to the World Series and not the three aces, including Barry Zito, who was on the mound for them. Like, they just
Jeremy Brown?
That wasn't it. They conveniently left out the pitching staff that was amazing. I'm forgetting the name of that Moneyball catcher. I'll think of it, but that's going to be my
worst one. Joanna Man.
Scott Hedberg.
Never seen it. Never seen that one. Caddyshack 2. I mean, that's...
Oh, so you're anti-Caddyshack?
No, I like the first one.
Okay,
I hate
gotcha.
the second one. The second
that's
one is just abysmal. I mean,
should I not like Blindside now that all of it that's come out from it?
Too.
Hey, your boy Lou was in that one too, wasn't he? Lou was the South Carolina coach.
Was Coach O in Blindside, or am I imagining things?
No, Coach O was there. Oh yeah.
Get low with a pad level.
Hey, gonna come to Bayou.
All right. What, if anything, can Chris Ballard do this offseason to calm the mob? Like, is there something where, like, a collection of Colts fans be like, okay, that's different. I like that. I'm turning the heat down on Chris Ballard.
It's make a big move. To me, it's, don't you think so, KB? A big-time free agent, a big-time move, an aggressive move in the draft, going out and getting someone that other teams, and maybe other teams like the Texans wanted, but you go out and fans love when you go out and you spend money and you're the talk of the NFL for a couple days. That would be one thing.
Yeah, I would say let's just go back to last offseason. If they were really as close as they were with Daniil Hunter, if you get that done, and then I don't think the Hunter thing, it obviously would have impacted other free agents that you brought back on your own roster. But if you still then could have traded up into the top, you imagine an offseason that had Daniil Hunter and Malik Neighbors?
No, I can't.
Now, again, those off seasons don't grow on trees. It's not necessarily, I don't think there's a Daniil Hunter in this year's free agency class. If I have to double check, and clearly there's not a Malik Neighbors in the draft. So I don't want to act like that is the exact blueprint that can be there again in 2025. But to answer Mark's question, I think the easy answer is not enough. I mean, nothing is, I think people are just going to say 8 years is 8 years. I don't care what he does randomly in March and April, but a move with the magnitude of either of those and or both, I think could get there.
Yeah.
For some.
Yeah.
For some.
I don't think it's going to calm the entire mob, but at least people are like, okay, well, at least that's a change of pace. He's actually he's putting words into action.
Yeah, if you get a free agent and get someone like a Dennis Allen or someone that is, Wink Martindale, if you go get Wink Martindale and then you sign a big-time defensive player and maybe another nice free agent, I think the combination of making a move, and I think the right DC will move the needle a little bit as well. I really do.
All right, last one it's made a weekly appearance here. What are we watching now? Like, I pounded through season 2 of Squid Games. I thought it was excellent. My wife, who had never seen it before, I picked it up midway through the second season. Now she's like wanting to watch the first season. So we're doing that. And as soon as we're done with that, I want to watch the Jerry Springer documentary because I need some trash television in my life.
Boy, that does sound like a good watch.
It's like a 4-part series. It's on Netflix.
That would probably be
I'm very intrigued by it. I've not watched it yet. I'm intrigued.
I think I'm going to watch Juror 2 because
that is a good one.
You recommended it, and then I'm rewatching Severity or Severance because Severance comes back this Sunday.
Juror number 2 is a Clint Eastwood movie. It's on Max. Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Okay.
Guess what I watched last night?
Rudy. I don't know.
A Notre Dame rerun from 20 years ago.
Notre Dame Hard Knocks on Peacock.
Oh.
You guys should watch
we
it.
knew it
in
was
all
Notre Dame.
seriousness. You guys are going to laugh at me. You guys would enjoy. And you know what? I tried to watch it thinking Maddie would like, I thought, hey, here, like, look, they're going to class.
Yes, behind the scenes.
Well, Jack Kaiser's proposing to his girlfriend. Like,
She didn't care?
I just couldn't pry her away.
Now, this is this is in season currently?
In season, yes,
This is
correct.
current?
So they, I think, 4 or 5 episodes on Peacock, so play the sound. And I believe I haven't watched number 6. So, yeah, they've done, first off, it's just unbelievable marketing for your program. I mean, it's you'll get hot and bothered by Marcus Freeman watching it.
They allow swearing?
I think so, yeah.
Notre Dame has final edits saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to
would
act like
imagine on
Freeman's
some of
just
those things.
undressing them, but
Right.
I'm trying to think. Manti Te'o came and spoke to the team. I mean, like it's good stuff.
I asked because the Bears made it evident that they wanted swearing out of their Hard Knocks, so I didn't know, because they're such
I mean,
turds.
it's no offense to the Bears, but it's not NFL if you don't have, Rex Wright and John Gruden dropping F-bombs. So it is what it is. Let's take a break. 239-1070. Load them up. 317-239-1070. Pop quiz coming up next.
handle the pressure. Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, 2 items of homework here. I've put Scotty to the task of the last time a Big Ten team has won 5 straight Big Ten games by double digits.
Have you given him a time frame, like you want this due tomorrow at 9:40 when we do the pop quiz? Or you giving him Monday or Tuesday, or what are you doing?
I said it earlier in the show, kind of hoping he was listening, and he wasn't. He actually had more important stuff to be worried about, so I just saw him in the hallway.
Usually he is, because if we don't know something on the air, Scotty will text us in about 30 seconds.
So I just saw him in the hallway and told him about it again. So maybe that'll be on tomorrow's pop quiz. This is more of an ugly piece of homework from Alex Bozich of Inside the Hall.
Oh, boy. That's my guy, Alex Bozich.
In Indiana, Ohio State tomorrow. That is a Fox game coming up 8 o'clock. He says that Indiana has lost 11 times by 20 or more since 2021, 2022.
Okay.
In that period, if you combine the programs of Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Northwestern, they have a total of 11 losses by 20 or more.
I mean, some of those teams have had some lean years. It's not like Northwestern and Illinois have been number 1 and 2 in the country for the last 4 years.
I don't think Wisconsin and Michigan State have been flawless.
Listen, I agree. Again, Michigan State stunk last year. Ugh.
Yeah, it is.
There's not a good stat right now for IU basketball. There's just not under Mike Woodson. It all stinks. The whole thing stinks.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, pop quiz time. Jiffy Lube oil change. We are giving that away here. If you go 5 for 5, yesterday we had a hell of an effort. It derailed a little bit at the end. I'm looking at this, and if you know, I would say a little bit of basketball and sprinkle in some racing, I think you got a chance here.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a middle-of-the-road one for Scotty. That's what I would call it. It's doable, but it's probably more of a 3 or 4 out of 5, probably.
You got number 4?
Yeah, let's go caller number 2 today, Mark.
All right, Fulton.
Hello, Fulton.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Fulton, we are great. My dad used to teach at Fulton Junior High. Fulton, I don't think it's it exists anymore. How are you, Fulton?
Great. I'm friends with JMV.
Oh, tell us more. How do you know John?
Well, I actually saw him at Sid's, and I was on the JMV takeover.
Oh.
And I've been playing my ukulele September by Earth, Wind & Fire.
Whoa, time out. You play the ukulele. Did I hear an Earth, Wind, and Fire in there?
Yep.
Wow.
He did the remix of it.
Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but you got it handy?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
Well, go ahead.
Let's want to do it.
Yeah,
well, I think we can wait for the pop quiz. I mean, we sang Happy Birthday the other day.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll get to the Big Ten questions here in a second.
Whip out the ukulele.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Do you remember 21st night of September? I was chasing the minds of pretender.
Here we go.
I was thrown in the clouds away. Our hearts are ringing.
Fulton.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, good for you. Put you on
Fulton,
the
that
spot.
is outstanding.
Listen, we put you on the spot, Fulton. You knocked it
Can
out
you
of the park.
imagine? Boy,
Great job.
He's cold off the bench. Like I don't know. Maybe he has been practicing all morning long. Fulton, that was great work. I didn't want you to stop, brother.
Good job.
That's all right. Thank you.
Well, I guess can we test your sports knowledge here?
Sure.
All right.
All right.
Up for the challenge.
Mark, do we have to will the YouTube allow us to air that? I mean, that was a
Sure.
You were nervous about
It's
Jerry
okay.
Goldsmith earlier. I had a whistle.
I think we're fine. Don't sue us, Fulton.
Do they know Fulton's Earth, Wind, and Fire?
We're going to owe someone 19 cents.
A little remix on that.
Yeah. All right, let's go, Fulton. Let's get a win on this Thursday. Question number 1. Purdue won late last night at Washington to improve to 6-1 in Big Ten play. Who currently leads the Big Ten standings in men's basketball? Is it Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan or Illinois?
I think it might be Purdue.
Number 2 here, Fulton. Which Big Ten team is currently winless in conference play? Is it Washington, Penn State, Northwestern, or Minnesota?
Let's see. It might be Penn State.
I would think they play the ukulele in this part of the country. Do you think that? I don't know.
Why do you?
I don't know. It just seems like.
Why do you think that?
Seems like you gather around the lake, and
you're stuck inside.
Maybe you just
half
dial
the
it
year.
up. Fulton, it's not Penn State. You want to guess another one?
Illinois.
Well, that wasn't one of the choices, but we can't be great at everything, right? Fulton, are you self-taught?
Right. Yeah, I sure am. My grandpa and I do sports, talk about sports and everything. So.
All right. Okay.
All right. Number 3. Happy 90th birthday to the legendary Anthony Joseph Foyt Jr. AJ became the first driver to win the Indy 500 4 times with his victory all the way back in 1977. Foyt also had success in stock cars and sports cars during his lengthy racing career. Which of the following events did Foyt not win in his career? The 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Daytona 500, the 24 Hours of Daytona, or finally, he won them all.
Let's see. I know my grandpa loves racing, so I'm going with Daytona.
Super Tex. He's done a lot, Fulton, in his career. A lot.
It should be his career. Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. All right. Number 4 here. Jaden Daniels, folks. He's rushed for 927 yards this season, including the playoffs to set an NFL rookie record. Fulton, whose record did he break? Did he break A, Cam Newton's, B, Robert Griffin III, C, Lamar Jackson, D, Josh Allen? Fulton, my hint is this. Riley Leonard, Notre Dame quarterback, his favorite player is this man. That might be the worst hint I've ever given.
What kind of crappy hint is that?
Probably A. Probably A, I guess.
You're going A, Cam Newton?
That's who I would have went with, yeah.
This guy are down the Riley Leonard nerd wormhole, Kevin.
This guy interviewed Riley Leonard this year. And
his favorite food is peas. Who would know that?
Had a nice embrace after the interview.
Riley Leonard's favorite player. Oh, goodness. Number 5. Detroit Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs is just the 4th player in NFL history to have at least 1,400 yards, rushing yards, 500 receiving yards, and 20 touchdowns in the same season. Name the only player to have 1,400, 500, and 20 touchdowns twice in his career. Is it Gibbs, LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, or Christian McCaffrey?
It might be Gibbs.
Look at that.
It might be.
Or you can throw up a prayer and try one more.
You know what, Fulton? Thank you for the ukulele. That was a hell of an effort. That was beautiful. Fulton, do you do any other songs?
Welcome.
Any other besides Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Well, I do a lot of other songs. I did one back in the studio I've been doing. It was my first recording of Jesus Come and Get Us Very Soon. I wrote that one all by myself. And I think I did like Rainbow Connection or some other music I can do. And
well, that is wonderful. Holton, Holton was a guy in my wedding named Holton Witcher. Fulton, your effort on the pop quiz sounded like me playing music, frankly. Not you, Fulton. It sounded like me playing music. Was that an offer?
Yeah, it was. Fulton, appreciate it, brother. What if he's like, I do a great rendition of the thong song. Did Mark play that like yesterday or the day before?
Yeah, we had Speedo talk, so Cisco came to my mind.
I can hit you up with Get Low or 50 Cent Candy
3-6
Shop.
Mafia's in my wheelhouse, actually.
Michigan State would be undefeated, not Purdue and Michigan, actually. Michigan State technically 6-0, though. Minnesota's winless. Andy, Super Tex won them all. RG3, guys. That's Riley Leonard's favorite player.
Yeah. I don't know what I think about that. And then Priest Holmes, also 1,400 yards, 500 yards receiving, and 20 touchdowns. He did it twice. Priest Holmes had like 5 years where he was ridiculous. 4 or 5 years.
He really
where he
did.
was just unbelievable. I probably would have picked LT on that one, so I would have got that wrong.
Now, we could maybe get a little combo here, rendition, Fulton, and maybe the guy that sings those cult songs. Is that Seth?
Seth, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The fan of the year, right?
I thought they could do maybe a combo because it's Joe Flacco's 40th birthday.
It's Flacco's birthday.
I mean, come on.
I mean, we should have been wishing Flacco
Right?
a happy
We
birthday
sang
this entire
Good Jimmy.
time.
Happy birthday earlier this week.
It's too
and
bad.
Fulton and Seth could give a little Joe Flacco. I mean, it's 40. That's a big number, right?
It's a huge number. It's also sad that I'm to the spot to where I'm like, oh, I'm older than Joe Flacco. like everyone's like, Flacco this. Like, I'm to the point. Scotty, you shake your head, but you've been down this road. I'm just entering this road even more so. I'm like, man, I'm older than Joe Flacco.
Thank
He's
you to
gonna go
Tom
make
Crean.
$5 million next year.
Thank you to Joe Reitz. Reminder, Pacer Piston action coming up 7 o'clock tonight from Detroit.
Yeah, 6:30. You can catch that right here on The Fan. Tomorrow, we have Pat Forty joining us. Greg Rakestraw will join us. We'll give our picks to the NFL games and everything else. Check out the Podcast Center, 1075thefan.com. Jake and Jimmy at noon, JMV at 3. Have a good afternoon right here on The Fan.